and we had a packed week for League of Legends. It was just so many things happened. So we had the really grindy week of the group stage for Worlds 2020. Then after that, you had the OPL closing down. TSM made history by going 0-6. We have our quarterfinals coming up this Thursday. Yeah, well, it'd be on Wednesday night, wouldn't it? Because it would be like Thursday morning or something like that. So there was a lot that happened overall. But like, what would you say would be the best game from the Worlds 2020 group stage? Actually,
What would be my favorite game of the groups
the
2020?
best game, the
I
best
think
game
the
had to
game.
be in
What do you think?
G2 versus Sunny. You're gonna say that
I was gonna
the
say
first
game
time around?
one, G2 versus Suning was probably my favorite game. I do think again it came down to a lot of mistakes. Like there was a lot of mistakes made, but the team fights played out so impressively. Like on both sides, I think both of them played it really well. Another one I really liked was the duel between like Group A specifically was the most exciting to me. I think all the rest of the groups were just it was obvious who was gonna win from like the first game. Like TSM was obviously gonna get last place. Fnatic looked like they were better than LGD. I was kind of not sure if Gen G was gonna win first in that group or not, but like all around, I think the people like the groups played out the way I did for the most part. I thought expected them to for the most part. Like pretty much every single all of the top two teams are exactly who I predicted. Besides no, I think all of them are the same. But the big problems I did have with the Suning one specifically, the committing back into the fight after queuing in there, but I mean, again, it's all on the spot kind of mechanical mistakes more so than anything that were really the big problem with that. They set up for fights pretty well. They engaged pretty well, and the mechanics just I don't think there was a specific game even close to that level of mechanics, right? Like I wouldn't say anything played up to
Uh,
that level.
ooh, man. Like a close game like that. Like in the Gen G versus LGD game, the first time for when you had considerably week one, because like people don't understand. Like when we talk about week one, like we had to go through week ones where you play out 1 week of groups, wait till the next week to play your week two. So technically, since it was just 1 week of games, it was week two. Uh, I didn't really see a game that was to that caliber. But in week one, you had G2 versus Suning, and then you had I think Gen G versus LGD, like as Clown Fiesta as that game was, there were some really good individual moments, like Klid's barrels, BED shockwaves, the way like Xie moved around and used his Syndra ultimate, like he would stun the jungler so that Pina could come in and steal it. Like I think that game had a lot of good things about it too. Like it wasn't like the greatest quality game, but it really showed you like even the average like Chinese players that are considered like bad are still pretty good caliber too.
I
And
mean,
even
to be
Gen G,
fair, none of those players are considered bad even by Chinese standards.
yeah. So like even by like the players that are considered like underrated and not that good, they were still able to put on a show and like show people that they're still able to compete, you know, at the highest level. Even though they're the fourth seed, they still had something to really actually show. And even there was the one game where I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed when because people have to factor this in. I'm not gonna break this down too much because I've already went over this. TL played with no strings attached after they were pretty much mathematically eliminated from their point of view, right? And at least they acknowledged that they could play faster because in the game against Suning, they did the really creative level one that put SOFM behind, and then that's how they won. I was like, okay. And then you
It's
saw that in the Machi esports game, creative level one. Core JJ grabs them, they win. Like teams realize that having strong level one invades, if you're a weaker team, can really put you in an advantageous position because most of those teams don't really expect it because you don't really like for the LCK and the LPL, it's kind of like a clown fiesta thing to invade like that. Most of the bottom teams do that. Like the top tier teams don't really do that unless they're for sure they know they can get an advantage from that. But in terms of a bottom tier team, they're gonna try that stuff no matter what because they're weaker. They have to try something in order to
I
win. You
mean,
have to get an advantage early on.
I don't agree with the concept of the level one being the reason they won either one of those games. The only one that the level one really won, really kind of decided the game for them was the G2 one. The other ones were kind of inconsequential in my opinion. I do think the again really creative part. Team Liquid completely transformed my opinion on how they were playing the game. Like they really did not play the same from the first two games that they did for the rest of the tournament. Besides maybe week one of G2, they kind of just sat there waiting for G2 to win the game. But all right, yeah, I agree. The Unicorns of Love versus TSM rivalry. I'd like to see a tournament of TSM, Unicorns of Love, and Rogue just go at it. I want to see this.
You know what's kind of unfair though?
What?
The CIS were supposed to finally get out of group stage from those past 2 years of having like close nail biter fights with Cloud9 and Splice. They finally get into the main group stage event, and I gotta say, I am pleasantly disappointed by their results.
Pleasantly disappointed?
Yeah, because you factor in these past 2 years, they're supposed to be like, oh yeah, they're like main stage group worthy. They go in, they get 0-6.
I mean, the big thing about it, they have no competition in their region, and that is really the reality of how good you can make it to a. I mean, there's no reason to trash talk them. They did do their best. It's just it shows the quality of the region. It's hard for these teams without any international experience to be able to do anything. They get to play moderately decent quality teams at once every year.
This is how I look at it. The teams in their region, in their wildcard region, are like oceanic teams, and then when they go to Worlds, they're facing. It's like eating McDonald's every day, and then finally going and eating Chick-fil-A. It's a big difference from that, You get McDonald's for 2 splits in a row. Going to Worlds, you got Chick-fil-A, you have fucking Five Guys, In and Out, which is kind of overrated in itself, but that's not the point. So you have this whole giant buffet of teams that you can obviously learn from, but in your own region, it's just a bunch of knockoff McDonald's teams that are just going to do the same thing. You know what they're going to do, their player strengths, they're not good, but if you're the best team out of that bunch, you're going to be able to exploit them anyway.
It's not really.
That's just.
The thing about it is, I actually saw a few new unique things coming out of Gambit and stuff. The big thing about it is that, first of all, again, the way Unicorns of Love, their fast-paced early game aggression in level 1 was still relevant in the group stages for the most part. They just didn't know how to translate it into the main stage because they were just outmatched. They try for these kind of early game aggressive things, and then they're able to translate early game leads into nothing. Even in group stages, there was a very big relevant problem with their game style. Instead of transitioning into kind of setting up vision control around objectives and stuff, they'd always transitioned into a team fight somewhere, which is always kind of a weird thing for me to see. Going 1-through-1s and all this stuff are fine, but again, they didn't prioritize vision or any of that stuff. They just kind of tried to set up another engage for their team fight to keep consistently go. They kept trying to push more aggression in the middle stages of it. Group D also was it all kind at all for Unicorns of Love. Imagine Unicorn of Group D instead. I mean, they couldn't even beat FlyQuest. No, I can't
imagine them facing Fnatic. God.
Fnatic was better than FlyQuest, and so was LGD. Probably. Actually, you know what? Not LGD. Maybe not LGD. LGD might not have been better than FlyQuest, but it's a toss-up for me. But
What's up, Argo Spidey? How you doing, man? I bet he's really happy because Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are gonna be in Tom Holland's third Spider-Man movie.
I'm very excited about that.
But, man, you know how we were just talking about him getting outacted? He's gonna be outacted. I'm just saying, that pretty much confirms.
I don't agree with that statement.
Maybe Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield will outact him. They definitely have the avenues to do it. But I don't know about Unicorns of Love. I think it's genuinely dishonest to TSM to talk about their 0-6 while you don't mention Unicorns of Love 0-6. And you could also argue that Unicorns of Love looked really bad in their games too. I'm just saying, Unicorns of Love look pretty bad in their games against the other quality teams. But in Unicorns of Love's group, you had Top Esports and you had Dragon X, So in TSM's group, you had Fnatic, LGD, and Gen G. I just think that overall, which group was stronger in terms of measuring the 0-6?
Unicorns of CIS though, and TSM is the first seed of NA. I mean, honestly, TSM was not the best team coming out of NA. Just they might have been in NA, but specifically when it came down to actually being inside of Worlds, they were the worst probably the second worst performing team, maybe third. Like if you really, it's really a toss up between them and Rogue for second worst. Like they just like
I
again,
told people I thought Team Liquid was the best team. Team Liquid
they were not the
threw
best team.
so hard. Team Liquid threw so hard.
They
It
also
was
lost
literally
early game leads in the what's it called and had the hope to be able to come back. They were behind at the beginning of most of those games. They didn't throw games. They finally got a lead back and then they got
the
out the team
Baron.
fight.
The Baron throw they did in Game 5
Well, that
against
wasn't.
TSM.
What about the other games that they lost? Like you
I'm just
really.
saying, like they were in an advantageous position in a lot of their games against TSM, and they kind
It
of
was
just
no.
fumbled
They
it.
were they were
The
allowed to.
Beerson, the Jensen Zillion game when Jensen took the Zillion from him,
I'm just saying.
they also threw in that game too. Like I'm just saying, like TSM winning
You can
LCS
say all this
was not
stuff, but they all came back from behind. TSM had the early game pressure, and
shouldn't be able to come back from behind from that.
No. TSM had
I
the
look
early
at that
game
more or
leads.
less so from like I look at that from FlyQuest and Team Liquid sucking more than TSM being good.
Wait, TSM had
That's
the
what
leads against them in almost every game at the beginning of the game. Then they threw in the mid game, and then they came back, and then the other team came back. Like, if you're gonna give credit to Team Liquid throwing a lead, you have to also acknowledge that TSM was also ahead for most of those and threw their lead. Like,
But that's my thing, is that this is why North America sucks. That the team that gets the lead, they lose it in such ridiculous ways.
it's just the reality is when they went to Worlds, the way they had to be able, like, you could see the adaptability in each one of the teams. There was an obvious flaw in NA's game plan throughout the entirety of the year. They didn't adapt to the meta. They tried to play their own way. They're slow paced on all this stuff, and I mean, Top is probably not going to win the World's Championship in my opinion. I don't think they look as good as Damwon right now, and I honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, possibly. We'll see if they actually make it.
We'll get into that. I heavily disagree, but it's fine. That's why we have these things. Let's start from. Well, let's just get the easiest one out of the way. Let's get the OPL out of the way. The OPL is closing down. What are your first initial thoughts on that?
You're jumping from topic to topic.
Well, because if we just do the OPL, the rest of the things just
it was
flow
just
through
a
anyway.
one specific like thing I was mentioning, but I mean, I think an influx of talent is obviously the best way to go. They have I mean, OPL has been wide limit because OPL in pretty much every other game is NA based. Like in pretty much every other game, they have a lot of region like influx with NA in comparison to anything else. They speak NA, I mean English, so they obviously can't play without Southeast Asia. Like the closest English speaking country to them is NA. Like there's absolutely no reason for them to go anywhere else. Like where else could they go?
Well, someone's LEC.
LEC is so far. What? They
Well,
could not
like,
play on. They would play on ridiculous thing and all this stuff. Like
No. I'm talking about, like, let's say you grab an Oceania player and you want him on your LEC team. Why does he count as an import then?
Why would
I'm
he?
just saying, like,
I mean again.
yeah.
Look at the historical thing throughout most of the games is that Oceania is based. Like a lot of the players are not counted as imports for a lot of the NA teams, anyways. Like it would just North America in general. It's just
Yeah.
that's all my knowledge and like the rest of them. I heard somebody say that, and that's how it works in like other games. And I assume they're just trying to go with the way the other games kind of work in some ways. But again, on top of the fact that like as much as we don't want to say it, the massive player base difference is definitely a big thing here. Like LEC already has a significant more amount of players to play with, and again, maybe we don't want to take that in consideration, but it definitely should at the very least mean something. I mean, maybe letting them to go to LEC is not a big deal, but like getting the freedom to go to like 6 different regions because they wanted to is kind of weird to me. Like they just be so
I'm just
so
talking
high.
about from the import rule. Like, why do they count as imports in other regions but just not here? It makes
It makes
them
perfect
not
sense.
count as imports.
But that would be ridiculous. They'd be so valuable. Everybody would literally just get their stupid like region changed to Oceania so they can just be everywhere. That would just be the worst rule ever.
But their player base isn't that big.
Yeah,
though.
they could like okay, think about this right now. If Oceania did not count as imports to anywhere, everybody would go get green cards in Australia. And then they would have everybody swapping to that region and no one would count as imports anymore and they'd all kind of bounce through that rule space. Like it wouldn't make sense. Like realistically, no one would want because again, there's not actually a 4-year wait time anymore, from my knowledge. I think it's just you are allowed to change the region to any other region, not the other way around. Should be, possibly. I mean, they can make a few rules to go around it. The Oceania are allowed to change the region to any region, not the other way around. I mean, let me think. I mean, possibly. I think that could definitely be a good way around it. I mean, realistically, they're going about it because NA is obviously, first of all, the weakest of the regions. They have the smallest player base by a large margin, so this wouldn't get a significant boost to push them into the major regions. It would just equalize the difference between the major regions. Like, player-wise, I actually don't know if this even puts them up to LEC's player base yet. So, like, I do want to take that into
But
consideration.
this does give, this in theory should, I'm not saying it will, this should give NA the boost it needs in players. Because I've been watching the LPL for a very long time, and I'm not saying that all the players were great. What I'm saying is that, like, you still had, you had good players there. You mostly had, like, what do they call that? What's the saying for that? It's you have a diamond in the rocks. Yeah. So like basically there would be like 2 to 1 good players on even like bad teams. You know, that was like the best thing that you could even hope for. Like even on Legacy Esports, the Oceanic team that was at Worlds 2020, they had some pretty decent players for like that I could see on like LCS teams. You know, but that's just me. You know. With the OPL like dissolving, I personally think that this will help North America, but this also screws a lot of people out of the jobs they had in Australia. Like people gotta factor that in too. If you're taking away something to give that to somebody else, then someone's also losing.
What does
and
NA
it just sucks.
ecosystem mean? I don't understand. Realistically, the foundations and all this stuff are like arguing with
He's
the.
talking about the he's talking about the LCS orgs being able to like manage these players in a way that maximizes their full potential.
I mean, do you trust Oceania with that? Oceania was significantly worse at that. Like,
you know what's weird? That's what the guy brought up. He said like going over to NA, it's gonna add in better infrastructure, more money. You know.
I mean,
so
realistically, the difference, the way Oceania was run substantially, like NA, structure-wise and all this stuff, the big reason that NA is bad is because they don't have the player base to be able to make something like the EU Master Scene. They don't have the player base. They don't have the amount of players. Like stability-wise and all this stuff, they get a lot of money. A lot of the players are treated right. I think it all comes down to coaching staffs and lack of knowledge of what it is, like how to play the game. I wouldn't chalk up NA's like actual structure as poor. I mean, I think it's fine. They just maybe if they got enough players, they'd be able to build a farm system. Who knows? But I wish honestly there was a way for them to play on NA. They had to play for like 100 ping, and I don't think anybody wants to do that. That's just the most unfortunate part about it.
Like for North America, I think infrastructure is. I mean, it needs work. I wouldn't say it's terrible
I would
because
like
I've
to
definitely
know.
seen worse.
I mean, I don't know. I think this is a lot of people not taking into consideration. You can't really have my problem with it. I have is NA orgs prefer old timers import. Well, again, it all comes down to the fact that it's really hard to build up new talent when there's so many. Like again, if you look at the challenger scene, there's not a lot of actually decent players that have talent in there. Usually, again, you have to have a lot of veterans into a team. I think that it's somewhat of a problem that I see actually, like just letting who you gonna replace Hanser with, who I'd say is the biggest. We've seen what he's capable of, and he doesn't have too much potential. Just tell me a player I would replace him with.
Revenge.
No.
Well, that's the thing. That's right. That's the problem right there. Why don't you want to replace him?
Because he's doing terrible in the challenger scene.
But why would he not do better on the LCS stage? We don't know.
What does that even mean? Okay, tell me right now. If you're playing against worse competition and you're
so let's say if there's an academy top laner that is as good as Hanser, would you replace Hanser?
Yeah.
I don't believe you would. I think you keep Hanser just for that. I think you keep Hanser.
Well, I just told you I wouldn't, so...
Like, people are unwilling to change people. That's the problem.
If there is a player that is good enough, he has the room to grow, I would replace him. The reason that I would not usually replace Hanser is because of the fact... Let's look at it like this. Would Destiny ever been in the LEC without the OPL?
No, he wouldn't, actually.
Probably
not. Remember, what to be fair, the Destiny point is kind of weird. Because remember, Origin were trying to save money, and they also grabbed him for money reasons, too. That is also a factor.
I mean, there's nothing much... Again, OPL and Oceania, I mean, there's definitely more eyes on somebody in NA. The reason no one swaps from NA, first of all, is because there's not enough good players. But second of all, it's because of the fact that there's significant amounts more money inside of the NA scene. So why would they want to swap to EU? Like, again, like, realistically, like, obviously, competition and all this stuff matters. But if it's going to come down to, like, if I'm getting massive amounts more money in the NA scene, there's obviously... It would be a stupid reason to risk my future financially to go.
And another good point. Remember, Oceania only ever got one team into Worlds. Now, if you factor in, if you're an Oceania player and you come over here, if your team pans out, now you have a chance to go to Worlds, which wasn't even a possibility because they only gave one seed to Oceania anyway. Like, there are good things to come out of this, though.
I think, realistically, it's a region thing. Everybody wants to cheer for their own region. Like, for the most part, it's going to be better for the players in general because they're going to have more things going into them to kind of make them better players in general. Like, they might be able to take stuff out of this, like be able to understand what the NA orgs are actually doing in comparison to them, understand what's actually like a stable. Like, I don't know. They have the financial stability to be able to consistently do what they want to at this point because I don't know what the money looks like. I know this is a big problem in the OPL scene. I mean the what's it called scene was a lot of people complaining about this stuff was the money system was one thing, correct? I think that was
for the OPL.
Yeah, there was the one team that got banned for it. I think it was specifically in the OPL, but again, I don't know 100% what's going to be the situation with the
OPL dissolving,
OPL and all this stuff. Like, I think they have a lot of talent over there. Maybe it was misused, but again, even this amount of player base, I still think we're still like the fourth most populated region, fifth. Yeah, we're the fifth most populated region, even with the addition of the oceanic players. From my knowledge, I mean, Vietnam is like double our player base.
Crazy, and they're considered a wild card region.
I mean,
holy crap!
Yeah, the fact that we're better than Vietnam, and we have so many less players. I mean, it should be in and of itself enough to show that we have a pretty decent amount of like quality players coming out of here and quality like teams. Like, you can't say you really can't say Machi or PSG was better than either FlyQuest or Liquid. Like, there's no arguing about that. Like, we beat the tier 1 team out of Vietnam. Like all around, I think that it's going to be better for the OPL. I think that with both of us having such a low player base, it's unrealistic for us to be able to ever compete on the international stage with how many less people we have in the other regions. I don't think we could ever be on the same level as South Korea. We can never be on the same stage as like Europe, maybe. I'll put a maybe on Europe. I'm not 100% sure. And like, or China, like they're all significantly higher player base, higher talent pools, all this stuff. They have with the additional players, maybe we're able to make something like the EU Master scene. But right now, I think that the Challenger scene already, as it stands, has no talent in it. Like, all these players are significantly worse, like, than their counterparts right now, and that's what makes it kind of hard to make NA talent work. Is because the fact that maybe there's just not a good training tool out there. Maybe the people inside of the Challenger scene just aren't good enough to be coaches, and it's making them not develop as players fully. Like, they have to come out of the NA scene or the solo queue scene completely developed, or they're never going to be good because the coaches there just aren't good enough to make them good players. Like, that's probably what it is, in my opinion, to be completely honest.
It's because they're not putting much into academy. Now, there's collegiate that has its own esports scene. Like, the colleges around the U.S. have their own esports scene.
Well, they're trying to get putting much into it. I don't know what you mean.
I really haven't seen much orgs beside maybe Cloud9 put in a lot into their academy teams. To actively try out new players.
Yeah, because they had the best team. Like, obviously, it's good to try out players when you have the single best academy roster in every single position. They even tried Keith out because he was demolishing everybody in there. And he came to the main stage and got completely wrecked. Like, go in there. You can look at players succeeding on the academy scene. They have somewhat sort of talent. Maybe, honestly, the reason the academy scene exists is to be able to have the second team that's able to scrim with your main team, and if somebody outperforms the other one, you replace them. That's the whole point of it.
Now, from what LS said,
I don't care what LS said.
I'm just saying. What about like the pro players not wanting to scrim their counterparts so that they don't get
He
better.
has no proof that's true, so I'm
He
not
said
gonna
an
agree with it.
entire team. He said a specific org told him this.
Yeah, how did they get it? Did the players tell them? Anybody in the org could say this. I think this guy doesn't want to play because he doesn't want to get replaced. No player is going up to him and saying, "I'm not scrimming because I don't want to get replaced." No one told him that. He's
But
going based
why are you so quick to say it's not true though?
because there would be no absolute way that somebody would actually come out and say it. This is all based off hearsay. This is all
Well, you
based off
can't come out
somebody's
and say it because that if you come out and say that, that's a lot of heat you don't want.
Why would somebody say that then if there's a lot of heat that they don't want?
Well, he goes in with the information, the person's nameless, and the point of the person telling LS this is that it's out there. The information's out there that certain LCS players on LCS orgs don't want to scrim the academy players because they're afraid they would get better. Because remember, if you go from LCS to academy, your paychecks get slashed, and that does affect maybe your cost of living, which isn't true because the orgs pay for all themselves. But
I'm just gonna say
I'm just saying it could be a possibility.
it is not a possibility. It probably is true. I'll be honest. That's probably why the reason they won't scrim him. But at the same time, we have no definite proof of it. There's 100%. The only way he could do this is somebody in the org who is upset with the fact that the main team wouldn't scrim, made their own. They drew their own observations from what they saw, and that's all we can base it off of. There's 100% no one that went in there and told him, no, we don't want to scrim because we don't want to lose our spot. And I'm pretty sure even LS would say that. We have to, again, it is somebody in the org drawing their own observations, and LS is using a lot of, like, for Spring and NA, I would like to see a huge tournament with teams from Clash Academy, and the winner of the tournament goes to MSI. This would give Clash tournament qualifiers would be trash, dude. Clash tournament qualifiers.
You've been seeing players like him and me go up there and just embarrass ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd love that. I'd love to see. Like, my one big problem with I don't think we'd ever see a good Clash team, but again, at the same time, like, I'd love to see that's the one thing I hated about the what is it called thing when we made it to where we I can't remember what it's called, where we had
What's the name?
we had no promotion tournament. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, the challenger. When the challenger scene got relegation. When relegation were removed. Yeah.
I think that's the one thing I dislike about that is that we don't get to see these new types of, like, they kind of shifted the meta drastically each time these new teams came in, but at the same time, it really makes the region substantially better. As much as I don't like that's the least exciting part about it. They have, like, bad teams can literally give up on the scene, give up on the season, and be like, I'm done with this, we're not going to make it, and then just try out new talent. And that's something they're able to do now.
But they don't do that. People don't really do that, though.
Immortals did it.
This one split. What about the other, times other teams didn't try it?
Who cares? I mean, this is still this is a fallback system, so their only excuse now is the fact that they think the players aren't good enough. That's all they can say now. Like,
I'm glad at least this past split that we just had, at least they were willing to try it. And that's the thing that people...
It was like 9 rookies.
But that's the things that people have to understand this. When you grow talent, that takes some time. You don't just do it overnight, though. I think people are not giving the talent that people are deeming bad a fair shot. It takes time. Like Ryoma. People said Ryoma played pretty bad. Okay, this is his first actual year in a really good region, quote-unquote. How about he gets some time to prove that?
Huni was one of the best performing members in the playoffs. Let's point that out. It obviously seems like he just... I don't know what it is. Like, he actually completely... I think he was one of the better, top laners inside of the playoff scene. Like, that's the bit... Like, that is one big question I have about that. I mean, if Huni went down to the challenger scene, or to the academy scene, he would demolish everybody. Like, realistically, the reason these people aren't able to make it up is because they don't have the mechanics to, make it past this point. Like, a lot of them have played against these... LCS players, and they've just got absolutely dumpstered. Like, I would like to say that there's a possibility, but we can't just throwing everybody in there just because we want new talent is not the way to go about it. They have their time to develop inside the academy scene. If they can't play well there, I don't see a reason to bring them up.
What if they're a solid academy player for multiple different splits and still don't get a shot?
They're solid? What is solid?
What if they are?
Are they better than their counterpart?
It's not about being better. It's like, what if they actually are solid as a good player that could fit on a lower tier LCS team, but they still don't get a shot though?
I'm confused what you're talking
about. And
you have
I'm just saying, you could have a veteran sitting there for 4 years, or let's say 4 splits,
Can you make
and
a comparison, like an analogy, like somebody? I don't know who specifically you're talking about. I just think these are all like kind of
like
things that
this
we're
year,
talking about.
what happened on Immortals, where you had Apollo, who's never had success here outside of the one upset against TSM back in
What ADC would you have
2018
replaced him with?
spring. But that's the crazy thing, is you replaced him with another LCS veteran.
I just want to
You
point out,
know,
Apollo had like a ridiculously good KDA in the academy scene. They just aren't good. Like that's just the realistic situation. The people in the academy scene are just bad. Like it's not that they're not getting talent; it's that they just are so much worse than the counterpart. Like just think about this right now: Golden Glue goes down every single time. No, the thing about it is Licorice was an absolute monster in the academy scene, and that's why he got to play the LCS.
he was really good on United
Yeah,
actually.
like let's think about it right now. What's his name from that actually came into the academy scene this year? That was on C9 as the top laner, the backup. I'm trying to remember his
Fudge,
name. No. He was the academy scene like last year. He was the
the
top
last year
laner.
guy. Oh, the Brazil guy. I forgot his name. I know you're talking about.
Like all around, I think that when people perform well on the academy scene,
Jukes.
no,
It was Jukes.
that was not the same player I'm talking about.
You
Top
said
laner,
C9
he was the top laner for C9
Academy.
academy. I'll tell you right
You
now.
have Fudger. You have literally Fudger Jukes.
I
Clown
don't believe you.
Academy.
I can't believe you don't even know him. That disappoints me.
This disappoints my life and my soul. I said it was either
It's Kumo.
Jukes.
It was Kumo. Why you keep saying Jukes? He was literally on the team last year.
Jukes was in 2019.
Yes, so was Kumo. Kumo is the starter.
Ooh, oh yeah, but he had a roster this year. That's why I didn't bring him up.
That's
though.
why I'm saying the reason we talk about Kumo did incredible in the academy scene. He was so much better than a counterpart, so he got a shot. Like, I think that it's weird to say all this stuff, but like, why would you not just import somebody instead of try out new talent when these players are obviously proving?
Because when you
gets
import
weaker.
people, you never get people from your own region. That's the problem.
You
You
have
can't just
to-
always import.
You can't.
Because you're never
just
gonna have your own players.
So would you bring somebody in that was consistently you having an 0-12 KDA? If
Try
you
this.
had a no. I want to know what your opinion on this would be. If you had an 0-12 KDA player, pretty consistent, that's what he averages. Would you bring him into the LCS scene because you had a weak support in that role? He averages 0-12. Would you, at what point do you draw the line of he's obviously not LCS caliber?
I think you just get rid of both of them at that point.
I agree. I mean, I think that there's a significant. I would always go shopping through the academy scene, see what you can get. You obviously can't take people from other teams' academy scenes. I want to like you have to ask them. They're not gonna. You can't. You don't have a right to them until they give them up. Like you have to buy them off or something like that, or trade them. It seems like you're more willing.
Or like, what about this? What about CLG? Remember how CLG had Ruin, and what was the other guy, the role swap top laner, Desus? Now he just role swapped this past split to top lane, so that's kind of a weird comparison. But you literally clearly have Ruin running it down. Why at that point they're not even gonna make playoffs? Why not just play the academy top laner then? You're not even making playoffs at that point.
The
I
academy
don't really
top
see
laner?
their. Yeah, Desus.
What was his? How was he doing in the academy scene? I didn't even watch him.
I mean, CLG were terrible.
How was he doing? Like
That's
think-
the problem. I watch Academy a little bit, but like I'm just saying a comparison that's
I will
like
never
this
try
player's
out-
already bad.
if I'm just saying right now, maybe Ruin specifically should be replaced because there's no one worse than him anywhere. But like specifically, I will say that if your player is not good enough in the academy scene, I don't think he should get a shot until he develops himself. Like again, that's what AAA is for in the other game sports. It's what all these things exist for. Is because if you go into the big time, you can't learn anything. If the competition is it's much more significantly better than you. You learn something by having somebody slightly better than you or on equal stages from you, and somebody shows you how to do something from there on. Like, you develop faster against people of similar calibers to you. Unless you're like, there are specific people who can just completely shoot off and like, wow, he's so much better than me, and just pick up on what they're doing. For the most part, you can't really understand what somebody's doing if they're a large quantity of talent higher than you. Like, the academy scenes and all these things exist for a reason. I don't think anybody should just, I agree we need to try out more talent, but, I mean, I just don't see any. I don't see any NA talent in the academy scene right now. Everybody I've seen has been pretty mediocre. There's no reason that Keith McBrief should go down there and average 13 kills a game. Like, it's just, if he can average 13 kills a game, do you think there's any good NA talent in the ADC role specifically?
Look at it this way. He would only be able to have this shot because at some point TL took a shot on this guy. Remember, like, that's what people are talking about. The initial way he's even able to do that was because back then he got a shot to be on an LCS org. Players aren't even getting a shot to compete on the LCS stage.
No, what I'm saying is I'm going to get Golden Glue still gets a shot because he's obviously a step above everybody in the academy scene. But then again, he's not good enough for the LCS scene. That's the same thing with Keith. Keith was obviously, when he came into the scene, he was one of the better performing academy or challenger scene like players. There wasn't really a developed challenger scene back then. It was just kind of teams specifically. But it's just like, I agree. If there is somebody like you're saying that is averaging a massive, playing well in the academy scene, they should get a shot. But I don't think there is, and I really think that people are really wanting people to just try people out. When in reality, there's just not the talent people want there to be in the NA scene. Like, there's just no one there.
I'm just saying, but never ever giving people a shot, we'll have a problem.
They have a shot. They're in the academy scene. That's their shot. That's a very big shot.
What if they're like? Because you don't watch academy that much, do you?
I've watched a few games.
What if there are legitimate players in there on a few teams? Maybe there's one or two, maybe probably. Let's be honest, there's max one. Like let's just say there's max like one good player on each academy team.
All I'm saying is, if you're bad enough to lose to Keith McBrief, you should not get a chance.
Probably because they just started playing.
They've been playing League for years. All of them are just starting to play on a coordinated team level. And this is what the academy
scene... He's been playing on a coordinated team for how many splits?
This is why the academy scenes exist, to develop these players. You don't develop players in the main stage group because this is still a competitive scene. Like, as much as you want to say, you don't fix the NA scene by completely taking all the talent out of the academy scene so no one can develop. You develop them in the academy scene, and when they get good enough, that's the whole point of the academy scene, and that's why it exists. Like, honestly,
you can't just keep importing either. You can't just keep importing.
Well, then they need to get better. I mean, I don't think so. I don't agree with this statement because I honestly just have seen, from what I've seen from the academy scene, I've just genuinely never seen. It's the shot calling specifically that's one big problem. They need to learn how to find how to follow along with shot calling. A lot of them are discoordinated and not able to follow along. Like, they don't have the cohesion somebody who would play on the main stage should have. And that's something they need to work on. Like, a lot of, you can't just bring them up to the NA stage and hope that they pray to God that they're a completely different player, because that's just wasting everybody's time at that point. They're going up there not getting the training they need to, because instead of the coaches being able to see what they're comfortable with and developing a play style for them based off that, they're being thrust into what the team needs because the team needs to win now. Like, that's just how it's going to work over there. You can't practice specific play styles on the actual LCS stage. All these coaches are vying to not lose their job, so they're never going to just be like, I'm willing to lose this game because we need to develop these players. No coach is going to do that because coaches lose their job.
That's why they're trash. That's why these coaches are trash. The point of it is to develop players, and the development takes time, but they're so worried about winning right now that they're not worried about growing for the future.
I mean, that's just the reality of how it's going to work. No one is going to take this chance, and we have to take that in consideration also. All of these players,
because Cloud9 pick out rookie talent.
Cloud9 literally had good coaches in the academy and the main roster, and that's why these players were so good. And that's probably why Keith is able to demolish these players, is because the coach is developing the players around him, so he has a good team around him. Like, I think it all comes down to structural organization inside of the academy scene is just not as developed. The reason that it's not good is because, honestly, let's be real, 10 years is not a long time for any sport. There's not good coaches out there. There's not a lot of them. A lot of people don't understand the game at a perfect level. The game is still getting figured out. There's no perfect way or proven right way to do anything. If we want to see teams succeed on the main stage, they need to learn how to be better coaches. Coaching staffs are 100% the problem with NA right now. Until this gets solved, no one's going to be good.
And with that, we're going to move on to the main group stage that concluded this past week. Quarterfinals start on Thursday, but most likely they'll go on Wednesday. Well, yeah, Wednesday probably. All right, so let's go to Group A, actually. G2 Esports and Suning are the top teams out of Group A. Suning finished with a record of 5-1. G2 finished with 4-2. G2 Esports, my second baby. They always disappoint me, just like Cloud9 do sometimes. My baby G2 lost 2 games back to back, just like they did last year against Griffin. You know how crazy that is?
I mean, it's not really crazy.
All right, so let's go over Group A. So Suning and G2 got out. I think a lot of people predicted this. It was either Suning second, G2 first, Suning first, G2 second. It was pretty much that. TL third, Machi finished last. You were right about Machi only having that one game where they looked pretty good, because after that, it looked like they never really ever got that magic back from game one. It probably was just the game one overperformance from Machi.
They didn't, again, teams weren't ready for the playstyle. Like, specifically, Team Liquid had not adapted to this point in time. I want to point this out. They got better progressively as the Worlds went on, and by the end of it, they had adapted to the NA style, the World style, instead of what was relevant in the NA scene. That's the one. Them and Cloud9 have the best coaching staffs. Maybe not Cloud9 anymore, but like, I think that was the big problem I had with Team Liquid, is that they just were so slow paced and it just wouldn't work on the NA scene. So they started kind of making more aggressive plays in the early game and were able to stave off a lot of the aggression these better teams had. But at the end of this kind of whole group stage, obviously this bad performance at the beginning of the groups was just too much for them to be able to bounce back from. Like, they weren't able to beat Machi enough to the point where they were able to, like, make it, like, they weren't able to beat Machi to the point where they were in the first series, and by that point in time, a significantly worse team than them was able to knock them out of groups. Like, Machi, again, had an unrefined playstyle. They were good in the early game for a little bit because Gemini was actually pretty aggressive in the early game. He is gonna get picked up by a major region, in my opinion. I think he definitely deserves to be at this point. He's a step up. Even honestly, he was probably the second best jungler in this group. I think he was a step up from both Jankos and Brox in this entire tournament.
That's crazy. I was not predicting that going in, actually.
He made a few mistakes, but I think it was more so decision-making mistakes in comparison to mechanical mistakes. Like, his early game aggression is definitely something that could be benefited from a lot of teams. Like, all around, I want to say that I think that this was the most exciting group in the entire stage. I think that there wasn't really anybody... Like, the games never really felt as close in the other groups in comparison to this one. Like...
This group actually had, quote-unquote, stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Team Liquid, unfortunately, played too poorly at the beginning to be able to bounce back, but at the same time, they really made a run for it. They really made themselves a contender for the second spot in this group.
Now, here's the argument you could make for that. TL played out of their minds when they assumed that they were out, but they didn't perform well when it mattered to get the wins initially. How do you look at that?
I don't even understand that take. I mean,
okay,
just told
so
you. I understand what you're trying to say. I just don't understand why it would make any sense. Like, the reality is, Team Liquid, again, all the NA teams had been playing in a specific meta that didn't make sense for this, like, in NA, the meta
the whole
was...
year. Let's say the whole year.
Well, yeah, just reality is NA meta did not make any sense. And they had to really kind of transition the entire year from NA meta that just didn't work in the actual system because all the discoordinated, like discoordinated engages didn't really pull off in NA, so they were able to, like, kind of stave off aggression and scale to the late game. Obviously, it didn't make sense in Worlds because these teams are able to coordinate a lot better and close out on leads. Mm-hmm. Team Liquid got a lot of leads against them in the early game, and were able to still win the games, but you had the same issues except for Fnatic. I want to point out, Fnatic is substantially the best team in EU right now. I think they've been playing substantially better than G2 right now. They have really adapted to this play style. Like, and especially, I feel like a lot of the support champions that are in meta right now really suit Hylissang, and Whitbo has bounced back. Like, it's all Fnatic completely bouncing back in the play style with hyper aggression being able to suit them properly. Plus, Selfmade is just playing better than the Echo, so I do think the better team of the two. But again, I think that NA had been playing in a group which benefited Team Liquid's playstyle specifically because teams that again Team Liquid played from a deficit from a lot of times they'd get killed in the early game, but the teams weren't able to close out, and they'd eventually make a mistake. And relying on that on the main stage didn't make sense. So they slowly had to transition from that playstyle. Like I don't think it had anything to do with stakes, though. I do think that kind of hyperactively pushed the pace of them. I think that it all came down to the fact that Team Liquid slowly transitioned, and I think that by the end of it, their coaching staff really does need to get like kind of what's it called? Some credit
Like,
because
they knew all year they should have started playing faster. They knew that all year.
I don't feel like they did though. I mean, because no one
Broxa was very open with it on Twitter.
They can
Broxa
say whatever
was
they
very
want.
open with it.
None of the teams in NA actually did anything about it. Like, if you're
I mean, it's not just a one person thing though. I'm just saying that he acknowledged
some
it.
people acknowledged it. Some people acknowledge everything. Like he can say what he wants. He was specifically somebody who never made the attempts to push the pace. So I don't really think he has the right to complain about that. Like you were in the role that pushes the pace of a team, and you're not pushing the pace. I think Broxa is probably the reason as to why this team succeeded. I want to point out, I think as much as I think he was a detriment to the actual playstyle, I think his mentality against the game and his leadership qualities are probably what kept this team together in the beginning of the season. I mean, of the kind of poor start they had and made them be able to bounce back. I think Broxa is a good person. He's a good teammate to have.
The argument I'm making is that when it's hard to say though, because the games that they lost in week 1, imagine if they perform up to standard, they might have actually gotten a couple wins. It takes these teams from North America to be pretty much either A, mathematically unlimited, or you're at a point where if you don't win this game, you're out. It should not take that. It really shouldn't take that, though. You should be able to perform to expectations and at least win games without having stakes thrown at you in order to play better. Remember, there had to have been stakes thrown at Team Liquid for them to actually start playing this way.
I don't think that's what made them play better, and I'm going to just, like, again, I think if the team from NA, the Team Liquid that got first place in NA came here, they would have won 0-6 in the group if they played the same way they did in NA. I think they would have lost every single game. It was adaptability from swapping over. The coaching staff started picking more, like again, besides the jungle, they started picking more picks designed for what was succeeding on the group stage.
Yeah,
you
saw Tactical get Callista, Core JJ got set. They started doing things around the map. I like their adaptation. Yeah. I think it was just a little too late.
It was. I mean, it just they started even making picks around the map that you never would have seen.
Level 1 invades? I was like, what Team Liquid am I looking at?
No, Broxa was terrible in Worlds. Like, I don't want to give him credit. He was only good on Graves, and he really still didn't make the improvements that was really necessary. I just think as a person, he is a mature person, and he's really like kind of the thing that kept this team together. Like, again, you need that kind of emotional leader on a team to be able to bounce back from like an 0-3. Like all these, like he didn't really have an 0-3, but an 0-2 start. Like you need that type of player, and I think Brox is one of the few things. He's probably the person that kind of keeps this team together. And on top of the fact, obviously Core JJ was like the best performing member at Worlds, like one of the best players at Worlds specifically. By the end of the group stage, like he was playing out of his mind. He's like, he was trying to drag them to the knockout stage himself. Like you have to, like that's an also. He was by far better than. You know what? I mean. In the play-ins, I saw him make proactive plays, but again, a lot of the problems that I saw were still relevant. He did actually start. He actually still didn't, like, unless he was on Graves, he really didn't make any relevant impact on the game pre 10 to 15 minutes, and that's something that you really can't have out of a jungler at this stage. The reason they lost to G2 in this beginning half is because they banned Graves, and then he got put on what champion was it? He got put on somebody who scales.
He got put on Lillian. Is that her name?
So it's Lilia.
Bambi looking champion. I forget her name so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he just
there should be no world where he's losing to the INTZ jungler. INTZ were fucking awful.
I mean, he really did. He was one of the better performing junglers in the play-in stage, to be honest. Like again, we had that like 13-0 game on Graves, but I mean it was Graves obviously. Like all around, I don't want to give too much credit to Broxa. I do think it all comes down to his personality more so than anything as to why he was good on this team. But like,
mentality.
Personality, mentality, both the same things. Personality is the big thing that I think it is. It's his ability not to be able to tilt and to be able to bring people back from like the bad situation that they're in. Like obviously Jensen's not a leadership quality person. Obviously I also think that Core JJ with his like I don't think he's the leader of this team either. He's just the engaged. Like, there's not really this leader that I think that Team Liquid kind of lacked last year. I think they have this year. That's what's really making the difference here. All around, I think.
Do you think Team Liquid overperformed to expectations?
No,
I think they did, actually.
to my expectations, yeah. I didn't think they'd do this good. I thought they were going to lose a lot more games, and I honestly wasn't sure if they were going to get third place. It was kind of a toss-up for me. But I put them at third place. I thought they were definitely better than Machi, but I thought the inability for them to be able to beat the best teams would kind of keep them down, or so I thought Machi could take a game off because they would be fast-paced. But again, Machi was a lot slower-paced than I expected. They were fast-paced in the early game, but didn't really close out games fast. They kind of just kept their lead and scaled into the late game, which is weird. Like, I don't understand. Like, I think that I really do think that Team Liquid was the best team at Worlds from NA though. Like, they were definitely the best adapting team. They had the best players. There was no Core JJ in the other NA teams. And honestly, again, I want to give credit to Core JJ and the coaching staff. I still think these are the best performing players and people on this team. That's what really made them bounce back. And I mean, again, Suning was a big thing I want to talk about though. Suning is one of the big, like, if we're going to talk about Group A as a whole, I just liked Team Liquid, so I wanted to talk about them. But Suning is a big problem in this specific Worlds, and what their big problem was in Korea is they have massive amounts of talent. They're one of the most talented teams, even in Korea specifically though. Like, specifically, I mean in China, sorry. Even in China, they're one of the best performing, like, best talented teams, like, out there. But their big problem is that they're able to get these early game aggressive leads and all that stuff, but they're not able to close out properly because the enemy team is kind of able to stall out. And eventually, if you stall out long enough, Suning will make a mistake. They will make a mistake somewhere along the lines and throw the lead that they actually get because, again, they're really... Like, I don't know what it specifically, but if they don't get
Sword Art getting caught out?
It's not even always. Like, again, it's everybody on that team will like, eventually Ben will get caught out or somebody will get caught out and they will throw away the game that they had in their hands the whole time because, again, it's an inexperienced team trying to close, like, it's like SOFM with a team that's never actually been good, so he's used to solo playing a lot. Sword Art is trying to play around the map and is leaving Hong Fong on the island. Hong Fong is obviously on the island, so he can act like again, that's one of his bigger problems, the way he gets caught out. Ben is always overextending towards the later half of the game and getting caught out, and it really just leaves a lot of pressure around the map, kind of negated. And then, again, like, Angel's incredible. I think Angel's one of the best mid laners out of China right now. Like, he's just a really good player. But I think that it all comes down to, like, again, their inability to actually consistently close out games because they just don't know how to, like, actually properly do it. Against proper, like, good teams like JDG and all that stuff, they weren't able to do anything because JDG was able to stall their game out to the point where, like SOFM's, like, I mean, the early game pressure they were able to bring up was actually negated completely. That was actually a big problem. Suning versus JDG. JDG is a very terrible matchup at the Suning. Like, that's the worst Chinese matchup for them. I think they're probably going to get 3-0'd. Yeah, but JDG actually played poor this Tour of Worlds. I mean, I think they haven't played that well. But
everybody had JDG in their top 3, and I think they massively underperformed to expectations.
Yeah, I think Damwon is definitely a better team than them, but I don't think they were that bad. JDG's second game, even against Damwon, just wasn't even that good either. Like, I think JDG is probably going to really... I think that if we go based off group stage performance, I think Suning is probably going to win. But it's just a counter clash-up of play style specifically that I think that makes JDG the favorites in this. But again, the meta specifically has really not shifted into JDG's favor for this Worlds. Like, I think this is just a Worlds not designed for them. Because if we look at how JDG's played, even JDG and Dragon X are two perfect, and even Team Liquid to an extent, are perfect teams to exemplify the way Worlds is played. A lot of passive teams being forced because of the meta to transition into more early proactive plays. Like JDG and Dragon X, the reason JDG lost the first game so hard to Dragon X, to Damwon, is because when they lost that lead in the early game, yeah, this is really a good meta for Suning. But again, when they started losing the lead to Damwon, and Damwon started doing stuff, they still tried to force stuff to happen because they knew the game would be closed out on them against a capable team. So they kept trying to force things to happen, tried to force kills to happen, and they consistently kept dying, which snowballed the lead in Damwon's favor. It's the exact opposite of what Rogue did. Rogue did essentially lost the early game and they just tried to play reactionary.
Reactionary.
They didn't die, but they also just kind of let everything fall apart around them. Like,
But the last team for Group A was G2. Now, everyone knows I like G2 as well, but the issue here with G2 is I think they're massively weaker than they are last year. The best performing members of G2 are Wonder and Mickey X. I think even Caps is underperforming. Outside of that Suning game, I think Caps is kind of just underperformed pretty heavily. And Yankos has really not been exactly relevant. Perks is like okay. I just don't think they're as strong as they were last year. They were much stronger last year. They are not the same team in terms of just even how they even play the game. But we'll get into that later when we have to preview the quarterfinals of Genji versus G2. But I was decently disappointed by G2's performance in the group stage, to say the least.
I want to point out this G2 specifically. I think the Yankos is surprising because this is a meta that I thought if this was last year's Yankos would have taken over the game and they would have just went like 6-0 in this game.
Yeah.
But Yankos doesn't exist this year. This is not specifically the Yankos we had last year. This is not the Yankos I would have loved to see at this Worlds. Like we're getting
H2K Yankos First Blood King.
Ooh, Yankos from 2019 Yankos. I would have been fine with it. Like just this Yankos that we have this year just is disappointing. It's obviously he's not always the worst performing member. I mean, obviously Perks has been a very big problem with this team too, with his inability to properly play ADCs. Besides the utility they bring to it, I think that's been a big problem for this team too. But like he really is the most important role right now. Jungle is the single most important role right behind. Like jungle and mid lane are just like duo right now, and then it goes top lane, and then support, and then ADC. ADC is obviously the least important role, which is why I think Jaegers is better on ganking jungle. No, I mean we saw him on Nidalee, and even not even purely because of the level 1, I think he was terrible on it. I think we should start putting him on Volibears. Volibear is a good ganking jungler that is not reliant on early game pressure to still be relevant. I think
but they usually flex Volibear top though for Wonder.
I agree with that, but I think at this point in time you have to acknowledge the level at which Jankos is playing. He cannot play these carry style early game junglers. Like I would not want to see him on these anymore. I think that if you want to succeed right now, you need to start acknowledging the weaknesses of your team in comparison to just purely the strengths. Like if this was Jankos last year, I would trust him on Nidalee. Put him on champs like Volley. Yeah, again, Volibear when he was on Volibear, completely was too strong for Team Liquid to handle. I think that was an incredibly good champion to put him on. Team Liquid did not know what to do because their main weakness was kind of covered up because, like, not only can Volibear gank, he's also relevant in team fights because he's a tank. Like, Nidalee, when she falls off and gets behind, she's just irrelevant. She's not good in the late game, and she's not good from behind at all. Like,
so that's pretty much it for Group A. I mean, like, I hope they win against Genji, but it's looking like they won't, but we'll talk about it in just a moment. Group B, Dan1 finished 5-1, JDG finished 4-2, PSG Talent 2-4, and Rogue actually underperformed to the smallest expectations given to them, which is to play spoiler and get third place. Rogue themselves underperformed.
I mean, yeah, like the best game they had is when they just didn't die too many times against Damwon. And that was their best game.
No, PSG.
No, against Damwon specifically. I don't care about their win. I'm talking about specifically in Damwon, the reason in the first game against them, they didn't die a lot, and it was just like, wow, Rogue is just not that bad. But in reality, Rogue just didn't want to play the game.
It was the game against Damwon where, like, Damwon were kind of messing up. Rogue had moments to go in on them, but they chose not to. They were playing really safe. I was like, what?
Because, I mean,
like, you had a Hecarim and a TF, stun card, Hecarim ult, something. Like they just were unwilling to do anything.
Yeah, Damwon was literally just looking for engages, and Rogue just ran away the entire. Like, it was disappointing Worlds from Rogue. I think they really, again, one of the few teams that I think out of EU that was just not prepared for this specific meta. Even Mad Lions was prepared. They were just bad. They're just not a good team.
The fact that I remember this yesterday. I was like, Mad Lions were so bad. They got a chance to make it to the knockout rounds, and then they underperformed. What Mad Lions went like 1-4 or something like that. So they won one game, they lost all the rest. Then in a best of 5, they lost 5 more games. That's mega choking. If that's not choking, I don't know what is. They lost 9 games. It's like
the only team they ever to beat was INTZ. INTZ is the only team they beat. They lost to everybody else on the world stage. Like, all around, I want to point out Rogue's specific playstyle just wasn't suited for Worlds, but they also weren't able to adapt. And on top of the fact that they just had a terrible top laner in a meta that's specifically designed for a lot of pressure at a jungler's
They finally gave him Malphite in week 2. It's like, why not just give him Malphite in week 1 and win
top
some
lane
games?
is too important. Top lane is too important of a role right now for you to have a weak side top laner. I just think that none of the teams that are competing for first have a weak side top laner besides maybe Gen G, and even Gen G is really not competing.
Rascal's stepped it up a lot recently, actually. I think. He's still not that good, but he's better than what he was.
He's just, you're not going to win with Rascal. Rascal is still, I think that Gen G's really not competing for a world championship right now. They're like, I don't think they're in the top.
That's why they bought Clit and BDD, though.
It is, but they just don't look good in comparison to the actual top teams. I mean, maybe I'm misrepresenting how good they're going to be best of fives. We'll see. I mean, I want to see. Gen G is going to be the decider in G2.
For Group B, I mean, this group went as exactly as I thought, other than the Rogue dropping all their games. That's pretty much it. Like, Damwon still look good, but the issue with Damwon I have is, like, when you have Showmaker and Naguri giving over random lane kills against a better team, they will punish that. That will be punished. You can lose games off that.
That is one of the better teams. They lost it. JDG is one of the better teams. If they're not going to lose against them, they're not going to lose against anybody. Like, that's just the reality.
The next round they're facing Dragon X, so hopefully Chovy can punish Showmaker.
I think Dragon X was surprisingly good this year. I think I will go into them later, but I did like them this year. Like,
well, I mean, this group was pretty much already solved. JDG for me underperformed. I think they played just as bad as LGD. If I'm not being honest, they played just as bad as LGD in a lot of games too.
I think the reality is this is a meta that's not suited for them. We started seeing them trying to force early proactive playstyles. They tried to, when they were behind, they always tried to consistently force like leads to happen. Like, it's just because of the fact that they were not suited for this meta that they look so bad. I think in the previous meta in the beginning of this year, when it wasn't either it wasn't figured out or anything, they would have done fine. But I think,
all right, that is it for that. Nothing else really. I mean, PSG, just like Team Liquid, played better when they were mathematically eliminated. But you could also use the argument of Rogue won when it mattered to get out of the group stage when they thought they could get out. So it's kind of like, tomato, tomato. That'll be debated amongst people for years. Going on to Group C, Gen G finished 5-1, Fnatic finished 4-2, LGD finished 3-3, and TSM, they go 0-6. The first ever Pool 1 seed to go winless. The only other team beside them to have an even worse record was the Flash Wolves from Worlds 2017, who went 1-5, and the only team to give them that
better
win was
record. 1-5 is better than TSM.
0-6 and 1. That's, I mean,
it is better. I mean, there's no one worse than TSM. There's never been a team on the
that was the worst record up until now. If you had a Pool 1C doing that bad.
Like, it's
but
just, I don't know, man.
You want to start with TSM first, or you want to do everyone else first? Because I feel like TSM's gonna take longer.
Okay, let's go to Fnatic first. I think Fnatic again. We talked a little bit about them, so I don't want to delve too much into them. I think Fnatic
overperformed to expectations.
I don't think so. I think this is a meta that's completely suited for them. On top of the fact that Selfmade is really good on this specific. It's a jungle centric meta, and the meta is specifically jungle champs that Selfmade is good at. I mean, I'm not surprised they're playing well. Honestly, they weren't much worse than G2. I think it all was in their head. They should not have got 3-0'd by them in the finals. Like, the reality, like, I think the big problem with G2 is the inflexibility of Nemesis's draft. I think that without Lucian and without the Evelyn pick and not even the Evelyn pick, specifically the Lucian. Without the Lucian, I think they're a significantly weaker team. Like, utility mages, I mean, mid laners he's not really good at. I thought he was good at them last year, but he's looked really weak at them recently. The top laner, I mean, not top laner, Hylissang honestly made a lot, like, really terrible plays against TSM. He almost gave the game away to them, but TSM couldn't punish it.
Outside of TSM game, I think Reckless and Hylissang have been pretty solid for a bot lane.
Hylissang has made a few situations where I think that...
You'll never give Hylissang credit, even when he does do good a little bit.
I mean, he does do good. I acknowledging when he's good doesn't acknowledge, like, again, I want to acknowledge his problems. Because we obviously know that Hylissang, when he's on point, is incredibly good at support. But at the same time, like, we saw a few things in the TSM game where he walked up into the tri-bush when he shouldn't have and got himself killed. And I was like, you know what? This might be the thing that brings TSM back into the game. And it wasn't, because TSM's terrible. But like, all around, it's really hard for me to say whether or not TSM can actually... I mean, Fnatic is going to be able to perform on the best of five. They generally aren't incredible. Like, I think that they have a massive amount of flaws in their game plan because they just don't have the talent. Like, they have a lot of good players, but, like, it's all a lot of them don't play well on the same specific day. We saw a lot of them doing that on the group stage, was just why they were able to play so well. But at the same time, they lost against Jeonju, who I think right now is the weakest Korean team. Like, it's kind of not. I'm not too hyped on them right now. I do not expect a world championship out of them, but I do think they can beat Jeonju. I'm not Jeonju. I do think they could beat
Top.
Top. Oh, no, they're playing Top. I thought they're playing Suning. Never mind. No, they can't beat Top. That's just unfortunate. Again,
shit.
I will give credit to Fnatic. They have a coaching staff that's really good at making unique picks that are really hard to adapt to. That's one of the EU's strongest points, is the fact that they really do have the most potent adaptability out of all the regions. Even the previous season, like Season 5, when Korea was dominant, Fnatic EU was always the fastest to adapt to what was the new meta. But I think that if we're going to see Fnatic be able to win this, it's really going to have to come from an either underperformance or a massive overperformance, because I don't think Jankos has the ability to stop Knight from just demolishing him. I don't think again, I'm going to say the big matchup in this specific matchup between them is going to be Selfmade versus Karsa. But I mean, I think Fnatic played well. I want to give credit. Fnatic played well in this specific group. On top of that, I mean, the big reason they played so well, though, is obviously how weak the group was. LGD is the weakest Chinese team, and we have TSM, who's not a team, and then you have the weakest Korean team. Like, all around, I think that
For Fnatic, for me, I think Reckless and Hylissang overperformed to what people at least set them out for, because most people assume that Hylissang would get probably exposed by how bad he was playing in the LEC.
he was not playing bad when he played well. It is a big thing. Again, inconsistent. But again, a lot of it's inconsistent because he engages on whatever he sees in front of him, which I think is going to happen in those best of threes.
He did that in the group stage. This man will never ever not do that. He just has this itch to just go in when he sees anything. Bwipo performed pretty well. Selfmade, if they didn't have Selfmade, man, I don't know what their chances of getting out would have looked like, because Selfmade really was a driving force for them to be insanely proactive around the map. And Selfmade was, I think, one of the best junglers at the event so far. I mean,
agree.
he played really well. Pathing was great. His objective control was really well. He was able to get dragons when most people were just sitting in lane farming. He stole every dragon mostly you saw anyway. Then you also had him actually playing proactive around the bot lane and top lane. So I think that so far, Fnatic, it kind of sucks for me because I was trolling during my pick'ems and I didn't put Fnatic higher, but, it's okay. Fnatic
You thought LGD was better.
No. I still was going to have LGD second.
Yeah. My
LG.
What's up? I think a question I want. Again, Hylissang is an LP. The thing about it is, Hylissang is literally one of the weirdest. Like, he's incredibly good at making engages happen, but he is the worst Nautilus I've ever seen in my life. But somehow he's good at Thresh. Like, Thresh, who's substantially squishier, he dies less on him than he does Nautilus. But again, it's probably because Nautilus has to actually go in. Like, it's so weird to me. Like, Hylissang is an incredibly good player, and I agree with that. But when he's on his off days, it's not because of non-consistent committal on the enemy team. He just sometimes commits on things where his team can't follow up on. Like, Hylissang just has tendencies that shouldn't exist sometimes. Like, it really.
At least he's not as bad as Jack Troll.
I mean, he's not as bad as anybody. When he's good, he's one of the best. Like, he is probably one of the best supports in the entire West.
It's crazy. Let's go to LGD. LGD, I thought they were going to get out. I mean, they got third place. They were close to getting out. Their gameplay had been pretty bad all world so far. I mean, the best player I think they had was Xie. I think he proved that throughout all their games. He was their best player. Kramer and Lang X were their second best players. Mark was, like Hylissang, Mark was hit or miss. That's what Mark was to me, personally.
Mark just wasn't ready for the main stage. You could see it. There was a lot of nerves getting to him. A lot of mistakes that he didn't make in China were happening. I'm a little bit disappointed. He's young. I'll give him credit. I really did see a lot of potential from him, so I'm not going to judge him too harshly for that. Yeah.
And then you have LGD. I mean, now people could probably say oh yeah, well LGD's fourth seed is not going to be as good as most people anticipated. I mean, I don't really know where you want to put that at. I think they were not very good. Their drafting was really wonky. Their objective controls were pretty bad. Peanut underperformed. Oh my god, sorry. I'll be right back. Just keep talking.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it was an underperformance on Peanut, to be honest. I mean, he just wasn't incredibly good this year when he went against better junglers that we saw in the semifinals. He just wasn't good enough to compete with them. Like, he just was objectively worse than his counterparts. I mean, SOFM completely dumpstered him. They really struggled against all of the top teams because of their weaknesses in the jungle. When Peanut is against weaker junglers, I think he plays fine. But for, like, all around, I wouldn't give him too much credit. But I don't want to say Peanut underperformed. I just think he was outmatched in a specific amount. Like, he's not better than Clid anymore. He wasn't playing better than Self-Made. Like, it's not fortunate. I mean, I think he was really good in his prime, but I think at that point in time, I don't know if we're ever going to see that level of play again from him. I think we're just going to get an above-average jungler who really struggles against higher-tier teams. Like, I don't know. He can't play weak-side junglers. I think his abilities to play tanks kind of really, like, puts him down a tier, in my opinion, because, like, again, without the ability to play tanks, you're kind of, like, funneled into what you're able to play. But right now, the meta kind of suits him, so it's fine. And he's in a better region for himself because there's a lot more teams that will actually commit fully to what he does. Or the hyperactive gameplay, because there's so many kills going on, it really doesn't affect them too poorly. Like, I'm not saying that, Peanut's bad. I just don't think... I don't know how much of an underperformance it was, more so as him being just completely unmatched. He was...
I mean, he was bad last year when he was on Gen G. He was bad.
I just don't think he's better than Self-Made, and I don't think he's better than Clid. I think he was just, like, the only jungler who's better than, obviously, was Spica. I mean, not Spica.
And now... Spica actually outperformed Peanut, I'm just saying.
I don't know. I mean, Spica just didn't do anything in the early game. At least Peanut did something. Peanut was making stuff happen. Spica just didn't die. Spica's like the rogue of junglers.
Alright, now it's time to move on to the team that everyone wants to talk about, TSM.
I mean, we had a whole video when we watched the games. I was aggravated and I was just yelling the entire time because it was just disappointing. Like, TSM, 100%, when they discoordinated their engage, they specifically picked one of the most easy to execute combos in the entire game, which is Camille Galio. But, again,
Pearson's teleport were pretty bad.
I mean, it wasn't even
TP'd
teleports.
and they ran out. Like, Pearson's teleports were not that good. Their macro in the mid game was really bad.
It wasn't even mostly execution. Their early game comps, they really did actually kind of. Who was the best player in TSM? Wasn't it Spica? Spica? No, I think it was Broken Blade. As much as people don't want to acknowledge it because he had a few situations where he played poorly. I think that Broken Blade. Everybody played poorly in the second half, but again, Spica. For a meta that is designed, again, he didn't die a lot, and I think he had a few good engages, but again, the specific meta is inherently expedited or kind of controlled by the jungler right now, and he was unable to make anything proactive happen in the early game. Like, he played team fights moderately well, but so did Broxa. I mean, I think he was a better version of Broxa this year, with sometimes he'd get engages going off, but he was moderately decent when it came to just being in the right positions, but like, that 5-man sleep was tough, though. I agree with that. I think that was a really good situation on his point. But at the same time, like, I think that it comes down to team cohesion right now. There's obviously, just based off that, there's not that person who's pulling the trigger and saying, we need to go in on this right now. We need to commit to this. There's not a shot caller on that team. And I think that's the obvious problem with this team. I think Spica showed glimpses of being a moderately decent jungler, but I still think he's not that great. I think that his abilities to play in the early game, which is the most important aspect of the game right now, is early game jungling. He's not able to perform on that level. He's only able to kind of transition into kind of post laning jungling, and he's able to play those champions, just not the specific role well. Like, I think, like, again, I don't want to take too much. Spica is not the reason they lost, but I do think that his specific style, I mean, moderately inhibited how well TSM could play. But again, Bjergsen is the complete reason, the biggest thing we need to talk about this team. He was an underperforming player this entire season. I mean, this entire Worlds. I think he had a few moderately decent games. He had a few moderately decent situations, but nothing up to his standard. He never played to his standard. His Zilly game at the beginning wasn't bad, but again, the team around him played so poorly around it that it made it seem like it was a bad pick. Like, I think that TSM in general just didn't have a grasp of what the meta they wanted to play at was. Like,
I think they got blown out in scrims and were like, we can't do this anymore.
I don't know. I don't want to take. I just want to say, the first game they played was terrible. The second game they played was worse. The first game was probably the best game they had. Like,
I think the best game they had was the Gen G one.
nah, they got a lead, but they threw it away. And like at the very least, in the other.
Then they
games,
got it back.
Nah,
And then they threw it. I'm just saying, like, I think their best game was against Gen G.
I don't know.
Like, if you're getting like 5-man sleeps and you're that ahead early on, Broken Blade's even winning his lane. It's like if you can't win at that point, there's no hope for you.
No, man.
And then you're over here on like
Broken Blade did fine in lane. I think that wasn't a big problem.
Even toward the very end of it, like if he, how would I say this? Like, if you're trading Baron for your Nexus, I don't really know, honestly, what can really help them. Like, I assume there are going to be changes. There's going to be changes, as you know.
Coaching
TSM
staff.
is notorious. Coaching staff. Like, people say just replace them all again. You know, just get them all around Bjergsen. Bjergsen also underperformed, so you want to replace Bjergsen too? I'm pretty sure most people won't want that.
The thing about it is Bjergsen's been playing well all year in comparison to everybody who's been playing poorly. These problems have been relevant the entire year. They just weren't fixed, and that's something that is just incredible to me. Like something
and now they're just like exacerbated. What? That's the word. Exacerbated. So, I don't know. You know, like, do Bjergsen and double for Tyre after this point?
I don't think Bjergsen does. I mean, I don't see a reason as to why he would. He's had one specific select amount of games, 6 games altogether that have been bad in comparison to what I would say is a really successful year. I think he's played well. I just think that with the lack of shot calling, maybe he didn't believe that this team was going to be able to make it, and it just got into his head, so he played poorly, but I don't know. I mean, that's not an excuse to play poorly to that extent. Like, his LeBlanc combos were terrible. His ability, like all around, he just wasn't that useful on the team. Spica was probably the second or first best performing member on this team, debatably, which means that he was not even in the top 2. Broken Blade was playing better than him, too. Like, I think if you want to make a team, I think the 2 you have to keep are obviously Broken Blade and, like, Bjergsen. I think that everybody else like, the bot lane in general, Biofrost was terrible the entire year. Like,
I think Biofrost was the worst performing member. If you're talking worst performing...
It's hard because Doublelift Blade was set up to fail with picks like the Blanc and the point-and-click champs, but doing this said Bjergsen barely roams as a mid laner. This is the big thing about it. The execution on Bjergsen's part had nothing to do with point-and-click champions. If you look at if we look at the specific engages in top lane where he actually double W'd, he went WR instead of WQRE. He went WW and died before he can even get a QRE off. No, he did get a QE off. He just missed the E. And didn't.
Or how about that river chase? Remember the river chase where like people like screenshot it where he threw a LeBlanc Q? He could have threw it straight, but he threw it between 2 people. I'm just like, it's over. You're choking.
He executed a lot of things that had nothing to do with the picks. That just seems like an on paper thing that Ellis is talking about. Statistics wise, he actually wasn't. Was he even playing that bad statistics? I don't know. I don't think the stats really reflect how poorly Bjergsen played because I think he was a terrible player this year. Like, I think that this is the worst.
At Worlds, right?
At the Worlds, yeah, specifically. I think he played extremely well in NA. But, just a misexecution on a champion that he's played a lot and that he's really found a lot of success on, he wasn't able to perform well on. And I don't think I don't even think that.
Don, I know people say things like that, but this is for you to actually educate you on certain things, because I used to do that too, where like one person would say something and one person would say something and that would be like the usual consensus. Try to kind of meet it in the middle. Try to go off of what you saw. So like that's what I would go off of. A lot of people say that, you know, LS said this and Doinby said this and Azael said this. Not saying you did anything wrong. What I'm saying is that try to see it from your point of view. You know, because we were just talking about that. One person's going to say something to change the narrative on something, while one player or one other person will say this to make it seem different. That's what I'm trying to say.
I want to point out Ellis is one of the smartest people in the entire scene, so it's understandable why you take his word over most people's. But at the same time, he's also one of the most stubborn people, and he gets kind
If
of...
you watch the games, you can see Bjergsen
No,
performing, though.
I just want to say, he is a very stubborn person, and he likes to claim the more polar opposite of what the popular kind of opinion is. That's just how Ellis kind of functions. I think he's intelligent. I think he's really knowledgeable about the game to an extent that I don't think I ever will be. He understands the game more than I could. But at the same time, I think specifically on this specific thing he's wrong on. I've heard a little bit about it. I think statistics-wise is what he was bringing up. And then he brought up a few things that kind of make relevant sense if you look at the game in a broad sense. Like, he has good stats, plus this team comp specifically makes his champion not good, but, like if you actually, like, when you get into the game and delve into it, it was a lot of misexecutions on his part that actually made it, like, so poorly done. I think that, I genuinely love watching, like, Bjergsen play, so, I mean, it's really hard for me to say, because I was talking about how he was the best mid laner all year, was I not? Every time somebody said no, I would yell at him, but, like, it's disappointing. Like, this is the worst Worlds he's ever had. This is the worst international performance I've ever seen. It's worse than when he lost Unicorns of Love that one time.
If he can bounce back from this, I hope he can. You know, but Doublelift is different. You know, if there was a time where you could see Doublelift retiring,
I want to point out
now.
It is a singular year. Last year at Worlds, Doublelift was an incredible player. I don't think Bjergsen doesn't take enough risks. The Zilean pick specifically, the reason that Zilean works into TSM's comp is because TSM makes a lot of overzealous committals, and Zilean is actually able to make up for that difference. On top of the fact that Zilean's double Q is a very big zoning tool. That's why it works out. It makes up for a lot of mistakes that TSM makes, and it's a really good zoning tool.
Because I don't like the Zilean pick because it only works here because the laners are bad. It does not work against people who have a brain. It did not work against Xie. Did not work against BDD.
I want to point out,
it did not work against anybody like that.
It didn't actually seem that bad here. I'm like at Worlds this year.
Because the laners were just so... The laners here were so bad, they made the pick look so OP,
I want to point out, like, he didn't feel that bad at Worlds when he played it the first time. First
time, yeah, I agree, yeah.
I think it became bad because the rest of the team was terrible around it, and then the second time, I agree. That was a terrible choice for at least.
Yeah, he got solo killed. You saw his face. He was like, all right, I suck.
Like, the second time, I think it was unfortunate. But the first time, I don't think it was a bad pick. I think he played it moderately okay still. I just think that, like, if you look at the bot lane when they overcommitted, the ults actually just amounted to nothing. Even with him trying to save them from that, and that kind of just hampered his mood. Like, the Q is a big zoning tool, and that's the big reason as to why he's able to zone and he's able to kind of negate a lot of bad misplays. But, like, I think that the way that TSM was playing the game, it was really irrelevant. I don't want to say Zilean is a bad pick. I think it's really good in specific comps, and it actually is it's extremely good if you're good at it. Like, but it's not...
But that's what he's good at, though. That's his thing. If he can't do it against people like Cher...
No, he didn't play it poorly. Again, I want to point out that pick didn't not work because of him. I don't think he was the fault of this. I think it was the comp around him and the players around him that made this not function well. It's one of the few times. I think Bjergsen as a whole played terribly the entire Worlds, but that specific pick is not the problem there. I think it was a lot of decision-making was a big reason in that game why he wasn't able to. Again, another thing is, like, the positioning on Doublelift's part as to why they weren't able to win. He overcommitted on a lot of things. It was just picked off. Like, all around, I think that Doublelift, I want to give him another chance. This is the one Worlds, the one year that I've seen him play poorly, so I would still keep him on the team at the very least and maybe try out an academy later. Trying out academy doesn't seem like a bad idea. I mean, I don't think
a player like Doublelift will settle for that.
He doesn't have a choice. I mean, if he doesn't, then just get rid of him. I mean, I think that he at this point in time, his performance validates getting rid of him and trying out an academy laner. But, like, if he wants to be able to keep his spot, he needs to either step it up or do something else, because, I mean, I think there has to be at least one rotation piece, like one roster move, because there is not a shot caller, and they need to rotate a shot caller into this team, or they're never going to win.
I don't just understand why they didn't ever try out Treats and give him a fair shot, you know?
Again, we all know what the reason was. TSM...
Yeah, but that's my thing, is that's why I'm trying to bring back to your point, is he's not going to accept being on Academy. That's the thing.
I mean... Whether or not they actually... It's whether or not they give him that much control, because he should obviously not have that much control of whether or not he's on Academy. He's just not performed well enough to have that right.
Hmm. Well, that's pretty much it for TSM. Their season's over. I personally think that, I mean, everybody knows me because like I literally have streams and videos. I didn't think they were that good in general, but I think they were going to underperform to this massive extent.
No
That's
one
like
expected
crazy.
an 0-6 TSM. This is the most disappointing.
They
game
could have
ever.
at least, if I'm being generous, they could have went 2-4.
I think they could have won 2 games.
They could have beaten Fnatic. They could have beaten Gen G. That game against Gen G, that could have been one of their wins, and then they could have got a win against Fnatic or LGD maybe. They should have went 2-4. They're not 0-6 bad. That's just crazy.
I'm just gonna point
honestly.
out that I don't see a reason to go to EU when you get paid more than NA. Like competition means a lot to some people, but obviously the money and the being of the brand, the face value brand, the brand kind
What's
of
the
picture.
thing though? What do you want? Do you want money and face recognition, or you want to do well at Worlds? Because he wants to do well at Worlds.
I'm just saying
at this point.
he's the figurehead of TSM right now, one of the most popular organizations in the league. I agree with that. I mean, honestly, in his shoes, I don't blame him at all. It's the mature way to look at this. Looking at like it's you're either taking a chance and risking your entire kind of like financial future on whether or not you can make Worlds and make it worthwhile, or you take the guaranteed amount of money and stay on TSM. Like maybe it would make sense for a lot of people to go switch over to EU, but like I don't blame him for what he's doing. What he's doing specifically is a good idea to do. Again, I think I would probably take the same chance if, I mean, obviously I'll never get that chance specifically, but like I think that I would probably do the same thing in his shoes. It's a lot of money on the table that he'd be giving up if he swapped over to TSM and let somebody else take that mantle of TSM from him. Like this is if he sets him up as this person, he keeps performing well on NA, he's gonna be popular for years.
All right, so that's pretty much it with Group C. Yeah, now to move on to Group D. This group was pretty much just as predictable as Group B. Honestly,
it was a lot more interesting than Group B. I will give it credit for that. I think that Dragon
you know what's
X.
crazy?
What?
You know what's crazy? If Unicorns of Love had beaten Top Esports in their game, FlyQuest would have had a shot to play spoiler later on because they got 2 wins later on, which is crazy against Top and Unicorns of Love. Maybe get a tiebreaker scenario at a certain point, but banking on Unicorns of Love to beat Top Esports is like
Banking on Unicorns of Love to beat Rogue would be a question at this point. Like I think I really did like what Dragon X brought to the table. They really swapped up their playstyle and started relying more on Chovy's early game aggression. But again, the big problem with Dragon X, and something that is always going to be said about them, is the fact that if they don't have Chovy ahead in the mid game, they can't transition well into late game because their shot calling revolves around Chovy making these aggressive engages in the late game to be able to teamfight well. And that's the reason as to why Dragon X will never be able to play on the international stage completely. Because even though their playstyle was actually, like, I really did enjoy the swap in early game aggression that they tried to make this year. But, I mean, again, Death played pretty well too. I think this was a better performance out of his part. But again, like, it's hard for me to say, like, is it enough? Like, again, Chovy is the hit or miss. I mean, it's a good person to put in that mantle if he needs to get ahead, because, I mean, there's not many mid laners who could say they could beat him. Like even Knight would have a hard time against him. That's just like he's the top 3 mid laner at Worlds.
I think
in the world regardless.
Piosik was the best performing jungler in the group. I think he absolutely just wrecked house.
I think he had a few weird situations. I think he made a few mismanaged mistakes. I mean, if we look at it, I think the Kirei was one of the best support. Like they had a lot of good players on this team all around. Like every one of their players is world class. Besides Roach. Besides him, I think that everybody is world. Did I say Roach? Or whatever. I mean, I think
Doran?
that's. I'm trying to. Why did I say Roach? Doran. I think everybody else is world class besides that player, and that's really the big reason as to why they might not be able to win anything is because top lane is such a valuable asset right now. It is the most important role in the game right now. Jungle pressure is revolving specifically around top lane. You're able to give up these early game dragons, and the most part, that's what the most successful teams do. They give up these first 1 to 2 dragons, get a lot of pressure in top lane the first time, and then they take the Rift Herald and gank top a second time and take the entire turret in the span of what, like less than 10 minutes sometimes. Like that is a mass amount of gold going the way of whoever gets it, and it puts the top laner in a snowballing situation, and they're able to transition their leads pretty well because that's just the state of top lane right now. A lot of the meta champions in top lane are either like Camille, who is incredibly good at getting the backline at any stage in the game, Ornn, who's just a stupid tank has one of the best engage tools in the game. Like all these like champions, if you get them ahead, they're extremely useful. If you can get Ornn to that power spike of 14, where he can start giving his items away early on, he wins the game for you almost, because you get so much extra 1,000 gold worth of stats added into your kit. Like, I think that is the big fault of Dragon X, because I think their playstyle was really good this year, and I think they really did, besides that specific aspect, have a really good adaptation to this meta. Like, Chovy's playing really well. Deft and Kirei are playing it phenomenal. Kirei specifically, if you look at that game against Top Esports the first time, where they got a really good engage on the top side, and he flashed in and followed it up with a flay, I think that was incredible on his part to really take that in consideration. It bounced back the lead in their side. But then they make stupid mistakes, like Kirei actually walking out of the bush on accident so they can see everybody's in that bush. Like, there's a few situations. Like, Dragon X is trying to adapt to a playstyle that they're not used to, so they make a couple mistakes here and there, and that's, like, it's understandable. I mean, I expect like, Dragon X to probably lose pretty hard to Damwon. Like, it's unfortunate that this is their matchup.
Top East. Well, let's go FlyQuest first, so then we'll do top. FlyQuest. I think FlyQuest. It's hard. It's the same thing with Team Liquid. It's like, I don't get why teams overperform when it doesn't matter. But Power of Evil in general have been playing well every single game anyway. He, like, even Flame Horizon Knight in their game, I was like, holy crap.
Incredibly good player.
Power of Evil and Jensen played really well. I think this was their best showing to prove that they should always get a starting spot no matter what. If you're FlyQuest moving forward from this, I think you keep Power of Evil. I think you keep Ignar. Some people said you should get rid of Solo, try out a different ADC from Wild Turtle. I don't think Wild Turtle had that bad of a group stage, honestly.
Specifically the last game, I think that he played really well on. But I don't think he played well, like, the entirety of the group stage.
He was very solid, is what I'll say. He was a solid part.
He was better than double lifts. I mean, if they had TSM double, Wild Turtle still, maybe they'd be a little better of a team. But I think my big problem with FlyQuest specifically is obviously the pace at which Santorin played the game. Santorin was not doing anything in the early game to be relevant, and that's really what kind of hampered them. And top of the fact, Solo was the worst player at Worlds almost. Like, what do you even do about that? Like, how do you make a team relevant?
Okay, at that point, you do take revenge. At that point,
I agree.
It's already
I think
low
that
enough.
Honestly, I feel like I'm going to go try out for FlyQuest at this point just so they can have a relevant topic. Because when I die, at the very least, I'm going to die in the middle of their team, not in solo top lane. I'll hide behind the turret at least. Like,
first game at Worlds, this man gives up first blood to 369.
Like, it's aggravating how little. So, like, Solo, I gave him credit. We gave him credit all last year for developing as a player, and we're like, this guy is a better version of Impact. And now, the only impact he has on the game is the fact that he makes the score, the goal deficit grow so quickly. Like, he dies.
For the other team.
Yeah. For the enemy team, he just doesn't CS, and then he dies when he tries. Like it's a major flaw inside of FlyQuest. Was mostly, I honestly think they might have been able to contest for that spot out of groups if they had a solid top laner. Like, yeah, even with,
to be fair, Santorin did not play that bad. Ignar and Wild Turtle were pretty solid. Most people thought that
Ignar was pretty weak. Ignar was pretty weak this Worlds.
He was weak when he tried to bail out his teammates.
I don't
That's
know.
What people probably
he also made a lot of mistakes in engages. Like, Ignar was not his best Worlds. Like, I think that Power Evil, one of the actual best mid laners in the entire tournament. Like, I think he was better than Jensen this tournament. I think he was the best, one of the best. Honestly, he was the best Western mid laner we sent this year. Like, he played the best. He was the best Western mid laner this year. He played incredible this entire tournament. In the single hardest group mid lane wise, I think he played well. He had Knight.
Even against Chovy, he held his own against Chovy
Knight
too.
and Chovy. Like, that's two. Power of Evil, just incredible. I want to give him I want to give him more credit than I expected. I think
That Vayne game he had, oh my god, that was insane.
I want to point out this. Jensen and Power of Evil played incredible at this Worlds, and they were both losing to Bjergsen, and this is how Bjergsen performs at Worlds. Like, I think the gap between them is not very much, but even then,
if Bjergsen's like a 9,
yeah, I just think
or 8, then they're just even. I think they're all just they're all even, but they do good things in their own way for their specific teams.
I think the big it's just incredible to me. Like the gap between them was so close. And then we see Bjergsen literally losing to caster minions in a 1v1. Like, it's just like not the same quality of player anymore.
Jensen and Power View are world class, not Bjergsen. Bjergsen's middle class.
Hey man, I
get to say that now. I get to say that now based on the performance I just saw.
Yeah, that's fair. They're both substantially better than them.
Like, that's crazy though. Now we're calling PoE and Jensen world class. They literally just perform really well.
I mean, I think
I'm not trying to say certain things, but like Power of Evil definitely performed to a world class level.
I want to point out,
and Chovy are power ranked like the best players at the tournament.
Power of Evil has always played well on the world stage. That's one big thing I'll say about him on Misfits and all that stuff. He's always played well. Yeah, on the international stages, we saw he was one of the main reasons as to why they were able to beat like TSM a few years ago. He's always played well internationally. It seems like it doesn't affect him at all. Like, I want to give credit to Power of Evil. He was probably the best Western mid laner we sent this year. Caps, probably because Caps underperformed to a drastic extent. Mm-hmm. But I think that, like, realistically, FlyQuest played better than they should have in this group purely because
played better than TSM.
And like, it's real. Like, TSM had no one worse than Solo on their team, and they still didn't make it out of groups because they were so unable to play in this specific style of meta. Misfits Worlds 2007. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that one was one of the big reason. Like Ignar and him have made incredible teams work. I want to say that I really did like what they brought to the table. I think they could make a caliber team out of this that they could like. Honestly, if they like brought on FBI to this team and then just like at this
FBI
point Lorlo to this top lane for them, they would be a better team.
Or Kumo. Hey, maybe Kumo.
I'd love Kuma. I still think I'm gonna give him more slack because he played so on Academy.
But
I really did like him.
FlyQuest, their runs over. I think FlyQuest is the most improved LCS org throughout the year. They came in as a joke. They come out the winners. They improved their brand. Everyone knows their name. Their Tree Quest initiative. They did a lot of good this year. That's the more than I can say for CLG. But I think they did really well. I want to really congratulate FlyQuest. They changed their brand. They got better players. They made back-to-back finals. They're not a joke anymore. I think that's a really good year.
That's the craziest thing is that they made back-to-back finals and they're still like underappreciated in the league. Like they like everybody was like, yeah, Team Liquid is substantially better than them going into this Worlds, and they outperformed Team Liquid.
That's because FlyQuest their only strength was scaling mid and support. That's it. That's all it was. Engage support, scaling mid.
Well, it wasn't always. I mean, again, they played a lot of mid laners that didn't scale. I mean, I think the big thing about it is the fact that, like, if we look at like what's it called, they were kind of relegated to Orianna duty in the mid lane, and I didn't really think that was good for them. Like, I think Orianna is a solid champion, but if that's something you put on it's a comfort pick for your mid laner who's incredibly good at other champions, it just kind of like brings down the team a little bit. Like, I think
Unicorns of Love. There's just not much there. Their solo lane laners suck. I think Gadget's their only good player, and you can't carry through ADC like that anymore. It sucks for him.
Like, I think their big playstyle problem. If you look at play-ins, they had a lot of problems in the abilities to translate leads into later stage Like, they went from leads in the early game into forced team fights, and that's the reason they lost into PSG, is because they had a lot of uncoordinated team fights after getting a massive amount of leads, and they could never actually sustainably end the game. Like, against bad teams in their region, when you group up with a lead, they will try and force the engage on you. But against better teams who are behind, they will actually try and play more reactionary and trying to, like, and they obviously will find better flanks to get off. Like I think Unicorns of Love was really good at playing the early game. I think that was a good thing. Like, maybe not in the group stage specifically, but I think that was their biggest strength, and I think they could have translated that in the early game inside of the group stages, but they just didn't. But but they just didn't have the players to pull it off. They tried to force team fights. When you try and force team fights because you have a lead, but you have worse players the other way around, like the enemy team, it swaps the execution from a 1-3-1, which is required for them to be able to stop your solo laners, into a ability for them to be able to outperform you execution wise and be able to like make it to where you actually lose the team fights. And they left that door open for enemy teams to be able to get back in by trying to say that they were able to execute this way, but they just like realistically had no way to do it. They should have went for objectives more when they had leads. They should have contested more for vision. Like they just did none of these things, and like that's probably why they were probably the worst team at Worlds this year on the group stage specifically. Like I think they had a lot of potential, but I mean, not they didn't have any potential. I mean, I'm trying to find good things to say about them. Like I think they were fun to watch. They were really fun to watch. The game against Top Esports was still exciting. They got a lot of kills in that one, but like all around, I think that I don't really want to see. I'll expect to see a team of their caliber on the world stage again next year.
Yeah. Last team we'll touch on is Top Esports. I think Top they were
good. I mean, I think this is not.
They were good.
I think
they were good.
They're obviously still the second best team of Worlds. I mean, I think that it's just whether or not you think there's a bigger gap than there was going into Worlds, and I do think there is. I think that Damwon looks significantly better than Top Esports. I think that when they got a lead, it was less likely for the enemy team to be able to pull off engages and stuff. It seemed like Damwon 100% when they play in the early game. That is the big problem with them. Is that sometimes they actually end up losing the engages in the early game because they try and force fights a lot too often. But Top Esports again. The most mechanically talented team at Worlds this year, probably. LCK counters LPL. Not last year against Griffin versus IG. I mean, I think they do. I mean, I think genuinely LCK counters everybody this year, like with their good players.
I think this is the year LCK wants to bounce back because this is the interesting part where we're going to get into it after this. I think Top Esports played well. I think the issue with Top I have is that Yu Yanji is he's
not bad. He's just really like again. I think
you can exploit their bot lane. Like you can exploit their bot lane. The issue here is their bot lane leaves openings to get exploited, and I think that if you're a team that wants to beat them, you're gonna have to tackle. You're gonna have to dive bot consistently.
Jaculov was one of the best, if not the best, ADC performance at Worlds this year.
That's just yeah.
I think the big problem is that Yuyanchi actually doesn't understand a lot of lane matchups. It seems like he actually steps up a little more too often than he should. Gets choked out, so CS is a lot harder to get to.
Karsa's jungle path is pretty predictable. He goes from top to mid to bot. Then he likes to invade. Like his jungle pathing is really predictable. So I think that going into the match with Fnatic, Selfmade could probably take advantage of him.
They're not kicking Bjergsen. Bjergsen is. I think if they're gonna pick somebody, they're gonna kick support 100%. Biofrost is gone from this team. I think the second person. If I had to pick, I would be ADC and then jungle. I think all three of those are good to kick out. As much as Spica played well at Worlds, I still don't think he has the potential to make a team world class. Bjergsen, unfortunately, needs to... Like, he played too well in NA for me to say that he couldn't perform well on the international stage, because look how Power of Evil did, and look how, what's his name did? How Jensen did. He was definitely equalized at the very least, potential-wise, to them. I think that he needs to really adapt to the world's meta, though. I think he really just wasn't prepared for it. With TF being banned every single game, he just didn't roam at all, which is kind of weird. He just kind of tried to.
Well, TF isn't built a roaming champion.
Yeah,
though.
But he roamed a lot more with other champions too. It just when he got to Worlds, he just didn't attempt to.
All right, so that's it, and now it's time for the fun part, guys. Quarterfinals are set. Let me go to the LOL Esports page. It's time for my pick'ems. This time I'm saving them. Holy crap, they're not tricking me again.
Oh, yeah, I have to do my pick'ems too, huh?
All right, so let me sign in right now. Let me mute my mic for a second while I take this up. Let me do my password. Okay, I can't have you guys hearing that.
How do I, where is the pick'ems? I don't even see them. Where are my pick'ems? I want to do them too. Coming at you live. Real wow.
Alright, so, because someone said, oh yeah, I was full of shit when I was trolling. I literally, after I got done with trolling my pick'ems last time around, you know what happened? I forgot to actually go back and save them. I just exited out because we were just ending the show. That's why. I had mostly everything correct. I had Fnatic at, I don't know where I had Fnatic or TSM, but I know I had LGD at second and Gen G first. I know that for sure. And then I had FlyQuest. I don't really know, honestly. It's okay. It's just pick'ems. All right, if you go to the LOL esports page where it has pick'ems, you'll have it where so you can make your picks. Make your picks, and they'll have the knockout stage. All right, so I'm going to show you my screen because that gets you to the second point of what's the show is. I'm saving my picks this time. They ain't tricking me this time.
Real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, so top esports versus Fnatic, Suning versus JDG, Gen G versus G2, and then you also have Damwon versus Dragon X. So, looking at it right now, there's 1 day left to actually make your pick'em, so I'm pretty glad I locked these in, actually. So, I would like to know, are you going to pick G2 to win Worlds? See, there you go. G2 will win. G2 is going to be in the finals. Let's go. G2 will be in the finals. My boys will be in the finals. Okay. No! No! I don't want that saved. I do not want that saved right now. No! Oh my god. Why is this saved? Why can't I replace people? What is going on here? Oh my god. Oh, that's how you do it. Okay. I'm just making sure. I don't want just that being there. But yeah, give me 1 second. Gen G World Champions. Let's go. Alright. Alright. So, the point of this right here is because obviously I'm not going to see any of you until, I'm not going to see any of you guys until next week. And by the time you see each other next week, we'll be on semifinals. Sorry about that troll thing. Oh my god, guys. I'll show you how much trolling I did. We were literally having some fun. That's trolling for you. Bro, I was trolling hard. Oh, I forgot. I had Fnatic at third.
You had TSM at first at one point in time, I remember. Like, you didn't... I think you just... Yeah.
No, here's what happened. Okay, so this is how I was trolling, right? And then after that, you know how it saves for you? Before they let it save, how it takes a moment to save, I exited out. I was going to go back in and put the picks I showed you initially when the stream first started. That's when I told you I was trolling. And then they're like, oh, you're full of shit. If I'm full of shit, then why is my first group the same way I had it when I first started this whole stream last time around? Oh, get the fuck out of here. Tell me I'm lying. But nevertheless, it's okay. It's fine. I'm not mad. I'm just saying.
That was the maddest I've ever heard anybody in my life. I'm not mad. I just hate these people, and I hope that yes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, you gotta calm yourself.
Yeah, like, dude, I said Sunny. That's why I tell people I was trolling. I literally said Sunny were better than G2. They were gonna get first place. G2 gonna get second. Was I wrong? I was the only guy here saying Sunny was gonna get first place.
Yeah, I'm the one that actually watched every single one of their games, and I still didn't believe in them because they weren't better.
I saw little bits of their game because SOFM usually just
every single game. And I was like, there's too many weaknesses in their game style. But you know what?
You're like, you know what? I watched all their games, but I'm still not gonna predict to be first place.
Well, no, because again, I had to point it out. I watched more because of SOFM. I watched more Suning games than I did G2 games this season, which is actually surprising. G2 100%. Like, against Chinese, it's the big thing about it is with Jankos playing so poorly, they had no answer to the raw, like, aggression that SFM put out. Like, and then Angel was just playing substantially better than Caps. Like, they lost in every single role. Like, I don't think they won.
Well, I even saw, like, this is how I compared it. Suning are losing up against IG and FPX, teams like JDG, Top Esports.
Well, I don't want to go back
to losing to Rogue.
Again, a big thing about...
You have to.
No, I don't have to. I think
Caps is playing up against mid laners like Special from XL.
What if I'm losing?
Angel is playing up against Rookie.
What if I'm in the LCK and I start losing to like Chovy? Does that make me better than Bjergsen because all he plays against is like?
I thought you already thought that
right
now.
I'm just saying it's not about the players specifically. The reason I thought that SFM again, it wasn't about the early game pressure. It was about the inability. It was about the inability for Suning to actually close it. Again, the way it works is if you can stall out towards the later half of the game, yeah, I agree. The Viking Berserkers, I 100% agree with that. But if you can stall out towards the later half of the game, like there's absolutely nothing. Suning 100% will eventually throw the game away. But it seems
Just imagine this. Rogue. God, like I was like, you know what? Because we're having like discussions. I was like, Unicorns of Love over Dragon X. Imagine if that was actually a thing.
I want to point out, I got Group B 100% right.
Did you?
I did.
You have PSG
I
talent.
had pushed G over them.
There's no way you predicted that.
I did
There's
predict
no
that.
That's you're trolling.
I'm
That was
not
pure trolling.
What I mean, honestly, I assumed Rogue would be bad, and that they'd get in there. I honestly was surprised by how good PSG was without their mid and jungle. Like I just thought they would be able to take like a game or two off them and then win the tiebreaker or something. But it was still impressive.
All right, let's go to the one that's in the title, which is Top Esports versus Fnatic. This is the most. This on paper should be the most lopsided. This is my thing. I think Fnatic will do better this time around in the quarterfinals against a Chinese team than FPX. Last time they really went in underestimating FPX. They really did, but that's not really an excuse to lose to them. It's just more or less so. I think they'll win more games than they did last year. Does that mean they're gonna beat Top Esports? I don't think so. I think that they're massively outclassed in a lot of their positions. Like even looking at 369, 369 played really well. He played better than Bwipo. Like the best part about Fnatic is self-made. Karsa can match self-made, and everywhere else, like Reckless versus Jackulov as a rematch. I think Reckless and Jackulov are even at the event so far. Hillsing is better than Yu Yanji. That's a good thing for Fnatic so far. So like if Fnatic bring this to 5 games, I see Fnatic doing that. I don't see them winning though. I can see Fnatic this being like that upset where people going, yeah, Fnatic almost got it toward the very end. And for that, I'm putting Top Esports going on to semifinals. I think this will be a 5-game series though.
I honestly think that if the Fnatic actually ends up losing that first game, I think it's probably going to be 3-0, 3-1. I think that Fnatic's again has a lot of they're bringing a lot of things to the table, and I think we're going to see the brunt of what they're capable of in the first game. They're going to bring a lot of new things to the table, and the adaptability is going to be a big factor in this like this series. Whether or not it actually amounts to anything is going to be what we see. Because if Fnatic is not able to win that first game, it means that what they've been practicing this whole time is not relevant.
Remember,
I think
FPX last year they did the Rengar top.
I loved FPS last year; they were fun to watch. But I think it's probably gonna be a 3-1, like in favor of Fnatic. I'm in Top Esports. That would have been
This is what I don't like about this tournament is that I'm a person that watches all the regions. I see these matches between LPL all the time. I don't need to watch them on the world stage. I want to watch China versus Korea, China versus EU. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see LPL versus LPL. I hate this system. It's so stupid.
It's not a bad. I don't know. I mean, I think that's the whole point of you don't want to see the people who just played in group stages against each other. You need to separate.
But we also don't want to see the same teams that just played each other in their own region. They play each other all year, though.
I'd rather see Top Esports versus Suning than I'd rather see Dragon X versus Top Esports automatically. Like, I feel like I don't want to see the same matchups for the entirety of the bracket. You could literally see only the same matchups for the entirety of the beginning of the bracket. Like, Dragon X versus... I agree. Dragon X versus Damwon is probably going to be unfortunate because I think Dragon X is playing pretty well, and they just got matched up against what I assume is going to be the team who takes it all. Like,
so you're picking Top Esports? That's what you're picking?
Yeah. I mean, I could show you what I... No, you don't need to see it, but I picked Top Esports right there, yeah.
All right, so next matchup is Suning versus JDG.
The hardest one for me.
I feel so bad for Suning. This is their...
I am going to say right now, this meta is a lot more suited for them than the previous one during China was. Like, they are hyper aggressive early game. JDG is really good against them. It's the big problem I see with this. But again, I think that the way JDG's been playing and the way Suning's been playing recently does favor Suning a slight amount.
I was going to actually pick Suning, actually. Because I think if you go off just recency from just their group stage performance, I think Suning's been playing better. But in terms of a best of 5, JDG's been more better and adaptable at best of 5s, though.
Again, JDG's specific playstyle is very counteractive to the way that Suning plays it. I want to point that out.
But that doesn't even work against Top Esports, though, because JDG can beat Top Esports.
JDG is able to beat Top Esports, yes.
Who are like a budget... And Suning is like a budget version of Top, though.
I'm confused. JDG was able to beat them once. It's because Top Esports rolled over everybody else and they couldn't beat JDG fully. Like, it takes them to 5 games each time. TES, Suning, G2, and Damwon. My big thing about it is that I think that Khalid is playing so much better than, what's his name? We'll get to, Yankos, that I think that I don't think they can win.
G2? For this one right here, I think... I'm going to take Suning. I think Suning's been playing much better than JDG.
Again, that's who I took actually too. I actually think that Suning with your ability, Demo might be 3-0 G2. Not gonna lie, I don't think. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think the big thing in this situation with Suning specifically, I think that G2, that JDG specifically recently has outperformed them. I want to point that out on the group stages, on the world stage. Like, I mean, on the not group stage, on the Chinese thing and all that things, they've never really matched up well against JDG, which has been historical this entire year. Is they've just not been able to play well against them. But I think SFM recently, like, do they have an answer to him? Like, they haven't. I mean, they obviously have an answer.
Kanavi's not going to be an answer though. Kanavi's supposed to be their answer to that.
Kanavi was an answer to him in the playoffs. To be honest, like he played really well in the playoffs, but he's just not been not that standard of play.
Yagao has been underperforming. Angel's been outperforming Yagao with like every
Angel was better
time.
than him the entire year. I mean,
I've told people you can exploit Yagao. What is this thing where you can't exploit him? Literally,
I mean, you have to be better than somebody to exploit. You can't exploit somebody. You just lane better than them. That's the whole thing with Yagao. If you're better than him, he's just not as useful. And that's why Top Esports kind of didn't completely dumpster Dragon X each time. Is because Chovy was just better than Yao. Like,
you mean Knight?
Arguably the best player at World so far, in my opinion. I honestly, I'm gonna still say I think Core JJ might have been. I think Core JJ had a lot because SOFM had a few mistakes specifically against the G2 series in the first series. He played really well at the beginning, and then actually, when if you look at the disengage SOFM had, what's it called? Suning had out of their gate their base the first time when they got in there. He actually went back into it engaged that actually, again, he was disengaged on. He queued in and then kicked him out, but he didn't have the damage to fully kill him. Obviously, it would have been a decent trade off the bat. But since he couldn't kill him, he just kicked him away. He died for it, and the person he kicked actually survived it. I mean, so SOFM has a few mistakes that I see. I think Core JJ has made very minimal mistakes and never one that costed anything.
Here's my thing with Suning. It's kind of weird because Suning live and die by whatever SOFM does. JDG don't exactly do that. I mean, JDG can play through other people.
The problem is that specifically, like, I want to match up each person. Kanavi plays really well against SOFM each time. I think he's
just a neutral. Yeah, he can neutralize the aggression and then
Yagao's picks the plays the exact same champions, so it kind of forces them to ban out the champions that Angel plays well. Do you think G2 can win against Gen G? And Gen G is strong in the early game, no? Gen G is 100% strong in the early game. That's why I'm saying this. Like, Clit is going to completely dumpster JDG, and that's my big problem with that matchup. But, again, I want to touch on Suning before we jump to that. I think Suning is going to be in a situation where I see them kind of... It's really hard for me, because I think this is probably the hardest one for me to put out, because I think Suning's been playing better, but JDG just is a better team than them. JDG is a better team all around. Suning got into a meta that's suited for them, kind of.
All right, so this is what you want me to put.
It's hard for me. I put Suning too.
This is better for the narratives, though. Top Esports versus JDG rematch of the LPL year.
I agree with that. Suning again played well recently, but again, they played against like arguably a weaker group and had a similar like win rate.
All right, so Top versus JDG. I'm leaning more towards JDG. I don't know. I don't want to troll.
You just do the first rounds first. Do the first rounds first. And then swap over.
Okay. Alright, so let's go Gen G versus G2.
I think the answer...
I haven't selected anything. This is actually just a misclick.
I think so JDG beat Suning. It's a really big mix up. Like I think it can go either way. I think JDG is probably... Like, I put Suning, but I know I'm going to get burned on that because obviously it's been the...
This man will... I told this person, all you do to beat SOFM is you invade him and put him behind. He said, no, you can't do that. Why? Because you can't.
When did this happen?
You can't? This happened literally yesterday. What are you talking about?
Yesterday? Did no one played yesterday?
No. I told him in the car.
Oh, no. I'm talking about when did SOFM get put behind ever?
I'm saying there's a way you could do it.
What team has done it?
Team Liquid did it.
He was still ahead in gold.
That's sad. That's so sad. And that is terrible. All right, I was going to wreck my brain. All right, so you have... Okay, so the consensus with this match is people actually think G2 could beat Gen G.
They can, 100%. I think...
If I wanted to make a wild card random prediction, I think G2 could beat Gen G. Remember, G2 have not really ever lost best of fives. I want to put that out there. They don't really lose best of fives. They only lost to FPX, and they only ever lost to internationally. This team has only ever lost one best of five. That was in the World Finals. I'm just saying though, they play much better in best of fives than best of ones.
I just want to say all around, let's forget an 8-man too sad to mention. I like to mention him every once in a while when I just feel bad about myself. Like, I think all around, I think that G2 specifically has a really good designed team to be able to deal with a lot of these players. Like, I think their ability to flex more things in the bot lane is moderately decent, and he's actually, like, Purse is actually pretty decent on utility champions because he's really good at ability-based things. But at the same time, I want to point out Clid just completely, with the way Jankos is playing, if Jankos can come back online, I think this is in favor of G2. But,
Here, I got it.
Yeah.
This is what you guys want. All right,
Yeah.
I'll just
I
put
think
it right
all
there.
around, there's no answer.
That's what you guys want, right?
No, that's exactly what everybody wants, yes.
Yeah, imagine this: G2 versus Fnatic World Finals. Watch G2 3-0 them on the finals.
Now let's see that Dragon X versus Gen G on the Fnatic finals. Just the two least likely to make it out of each side. I think the big thing about it right now is like G2 all around is. I think G2 will have a knockouts buff. I can't take that. I don't want to put anything into consideration. I think that's a likely thing to happen because again, in Best of Fives they look moderately better, but at the same time they didn't look invincible this year. Like last year at World, like in EU, when it came to Best of Fives, they completely turned online and they won against everybody. But this specific year, they've actually not been that dominant. Like they lost both seasons because there was a knockout bracket. They were able to make it back in, but Gen G
this time there's no knockout bracket. This time around,
it's
if you lose, you're done.
We looked at what like kind of hyper aggressive junglers can do to G2. They really did struggle both games. Like they won based off of a TP play into their base while everybody was alive, and when Suning beat them when they had both Elder Dragon and Baron.
Here's the X factor. I think that Wonder's better than Rascal, and I think that Mickey X has been playing better than Life. I think that if Mickey X can roam effectively early on and actually apply pressure and help Jankos apply pressure, I think they can win.
The problem is
the issue here is Clid and BDD are such a massively better mid jungle duo than Caps and Jankos, but BDD and Clid do not play together. Their synergy is actually pretty bad.
It's not
but
about
Ruler
synergy
is better than
them.
Perks though. Ruler is so much better than Perks. It's just this is hard actually.
The reason that G2 obviously you can't exert a lot of early game pressures solely as a support besides the roams, and roams are usually effective more so when you do it in tandem with the jungler, which I don't think actually they're going to be able to do with the amount of pressure. Like again, the way they're going to have to play, obviously the most effective way G2 has seen that they're able to get like pressure in the early game through the jungle is the fact that they pick Volibear and all that stuff. Nidalee is obviously proven to the fact that they can't play these, which means that they can only ban them. They can't ban and pick away, which really leaves a gap in how many bans they actually get. It really does affect the pick and ban phase, so they're going to have to ban early hyper-aggressive junglers like Nidalee and all that stuff, but they can't pick them themselves, so it has to be in first rotation, in my opinion. Like, they just don't have an answer to that. Or they can try and invade like Team Liquid did. Like, they don't have to ban these things, but it really does, again, give the leeway, more flexibility in Gen G's favor, because, again, like champions that aren't going to get banned out and aren't going to get picked, they can pick them in the first or second rotation without being worried about it. Like, Gen G, again, specifically because Clid is so much better than Jankos right now, I see a 3-0 right here. Like,
for Gen G?
For Gen G, because I want to say G2 turning it online is good, but they played, in my opinion, Suning, who has a weaker form of what Gen G is doing right now, and struggled against them a lot. But again, Gen G has a better mid laner. Gen G has I wouldn't say a better jungler, but a really similar jungler. They have a better ADC than like Suning. Like all around, this team genuinely seems like an upgraded version of Suning, but again, less objective focus, more so centralized around ganking. Again, the big problem with Gen G is the fact that they really did look just terrible inside of this group. It's like in a group that was like, in my opinion, one of the easiest ones in the entire world, they struggled a lot against every single one of the teams. Like, they really did not put together their whole composition like that well. I think they really did struggle against a lot of these teams that I feel like they shouldn't have.
Are you picking Gen G for this one?
I think I'm going to have to go with Gen G. Like, I feel like, again, the difference maker here for me is Clid. Clid is not going to be, like, inhibited at all because, again, his best picks can't be played by, besides Graves, can't be played by Jankos right now. Jankos can't play Nidalee. It's just impossible. He's not good right now. He's not good at exerting early game pressure, and he really does fall behind a lot, so he's going to reserve to like Volibear and stuff. Like, I think that is the big reason why they couldn't get first place in their group, and I think that's going to be the big reason why I see them losing out in this first stage.
I think, I don't know. This one's hard actually, because like I could see the upset potential in this matchup. Like Gen G winning game 1, then G2 bouncing back and winning the other 3. I could see a full. This is the match where I could see a full best of 5 right here. That's me. Ugh. I don't know about this one. This one's hard. I think I'll take the risk on this one. It's pick'ems. It doesn't matter if I win or not. Like I'll pick G2, but like Gen G could easily 3-0 them.
I mean, again, it's not really a risk. Most people are predicting G2 because, again, they've played historically better in best of 5, so it's not a crazy thing to say G2.
And Gen G have inconsistencies too. Gen G have inconsistencies in their own gameplay.
They do,
but
I mean, everybody has inconsistencies for the most part.
And now we're on to we already saw this match literally about 2 months ago. It was pretty one-sided for Damwon versus Dragon X. I think Damwon is going to obviously get their rematch against G2. What do you think about this one?
I think Damwon is going to get the rematch against Gen G, but I mean, I think the big thing about this, it's not too easy. Again, I think that Damwon is just the best team at Worlds right now, and that's why I don't see them dropping a game against Dragon X, who seems to be honestly just the worst version of JDG, who they have.
I'm just saying, guys, we have Damwon as the tournament favorite. So, okay, so I'm not going to see you guys until, what, next week, but you have to lock them in today. You only have today to lock them in. So you're basically, like, I have to base it off a ton of theory that I don't even have until this week.
How many points do you have right now?
How many points?
Yeah, go to the where's this group stage? Click on that.
I got 36. How much you got?
Let me see. I gotta go back. I put you in the dumpster. Oh my gosh.
How much you get?
God, I got 10 more points than you.
You have 46?
I got 45. I'm just counting it as 10.
Oh my god. This. Okay, so these are my hypotheticals right here. If I'm being a G2 fan, like I am, I put G2 right here, winning Worlds. But that'd be biased, and I don't do that stuff, so I can't do that. I think Damwon have been playing better than G2. They're so strong. I personally think this is not like last year. I think Damwon do take out G2 this time around. Now, this is just, I have to make these predictions because you have to lock them in today. This is not trolling. I have to basically theorize this literally a week in advance without seeing them play in best of 5s. Thank you, Riot. Why can't you do fucking pick'ems for semifinals and shit? No, like, for, like, you wait for them so we can see, like, who could really, really win, Like, I love G2 too, man, but, like, I just don't see G2 beating Damwon this time around. I see Damwon getting to the finals. Now, in terms of Top versus JDG, I think Top can take them out. I think it's a real big shot. We see Korea versus LPL in the World Championship 2020 finals. And if I have Top Esports versus Damwon, I'm taking Damwon. Damwon will be your 2020 World Championships, reclaiming the glory for the LCK. Because people are going to say, well, like, if you like G2, why aren't you picking them? Like, guys, if you look at the gameplay from the best of ones that we saw, Damwon massively outperformed G2. It's not even close. Like, there's ways you could argue it for Gen G. I can't argue one thing for G2 against Damwon. I got nothing. I actually have nothing. I got shit.
I don't want to make the prediction like fully. Like, I'm not gonna.
I have to.
No, I'm saying
you have to lock them in.
No, I agree. I'm just saying I can't really fully say what. Like, obviously I already picked this, and I expect Damwon to win. But I can't fully predict what's going to happen in these best of 5s until I see the first round. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but just they should make these like quarterfinal final picks their own and make semifinal picks their own and final picks their own. I'm just saying though. You have 46 points. That's what you got lucky with the PSG Talon one.
I didn't get lucky.
He just doesn't like Rogue. He just doesn't like Rogue.
All
right, guys.
Going into this, yeah, I told you they were terrible.
All right, guys, I'm locked in. This is not trolling this time around. I'm locked in. I think Damwon will win Worlds. I think they're the best team here. I think if they get past Dragon X, I mean, who's going to stop them? I'm just saying. Ryan picked Top Esports to win. Holy shit. I mean, it's not bad. I have Top Esports in the finals. I think Top will make it to the finals. But against Damwon, I think Damwon is stronger. Now, this is what you guys really want me to pick. There you go. Oh, no, 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 no! No, don't save. Don't save. Alright, that's what you guys really want. G2 versus Top Esports to win.
It's gonna save every time. I don't know why you freaked out. You just have to move it again and it unsaves.
Alright, there you go. I'm all locked in. We'll see who makes it to the finals and who makes it to semis. But that's pretty much it for this episode. I think this was actually pretty good. Now, as the fan in me, I definitely want G2 to win the finals. I mean, definitely. But, you know, gotta be realistic here with your predictions. That's pretty much it. Do you have anything else, honestly?
I want to point out, like, again, I have a lot of good luck with your picks. I mean, he did terrible the first time. Just, like, obviously, he didn't even troll and he still did bad. That's crazy. But I think
what?
The big problem with right now is with Worlds I see is just so unpredictable because a lot of the players aren't playing up to the standards they had for themselves previously. Like I'm excited to see what is in store. Like I'd love to see G2 outperform my expectations because I think they have a lot more potential than they brought to the stage completely at the beginning. Like I think that an EU team or a Western team in general doing a lot better. It would be a little more enjoyable if the EU teams weren't ragging on us so often, but, like, I guess we earned that. But, like, I do want to see an EU team or Western teams really kind of pull it out and, like, do something, like, impressive.
I mean, North America's just done nothing internationally.
No, I agree.
Beside...
It's like we do something bad and EU is the first. It's like we're a cripple and they're going and just beating just fighting us anyways. Like, they just put us at the same standards of people and then just kind of break our legs afterwards. Like, it's just banter. I don't know, man. I've heard some mean stuff that makes me sad.
Oh, no, dude. Don, it's not banter. I'm mean, too. Like, I hate when people say, oh, yeah, G2, blah, blah, blah. It's like, make the world finals.
I mean, to be fair.
The point of a world championship is to make the finals. Oh, my God, you got knocked out in the world finals. Oh, her-dee-dee-der. Where's your team at? Oh, yeah, they're going home on a plane. Fuck out of here. What are you talking about? Freaking mouth breathers?
You're just the most hyper-aggressive man. I don't care. I mean, I honestly really don't care that much.
We need to get food. I need food so bad.
Yeah, you could have got food earlier if you didn't make me wait outside for 30 minutes.
Why'd you knock on the door?
I'm telling you, I made my mistake of going into your house one time. I'm not doing that again. I'm not walking in anymore. It's surprising you. I don't like what I saw. Like all around.
Okay, back in my old house, guys, he walked in and me and a girl were like,
no,
you know.
Not what happened. There was that going on, except the fact that there was no girl in action with him. Like I don't think G2 is gonna speed run to the airport without a fight. I agree. I think G2 is a very versatile team, and I think they could really make a fight. I really think potential-wise they have the potential to put up. They're on paper the team that's capable of taking on GNG easily, and I think they could really. Like, again, if they beat Gen.G, I think they might be able to take a game or two off Damwon, too. I don't want to say Damwon's going to 3-0 anybody. Damwon is probably going to 3-0 everybody, to be honest. But, I mean, who knows? Like, I think that's pretty much it for me. I think I really am excited to see what's going to happen. Starts 2 more days, right?
Yeah. I got to do my Worlds 2020 Group Stage Day 8 thoughts and opinions, and that's pretty much it. Ready for the quarterfinals. I'm ready for the quarterfinals.
Yep. Would be beneficial for EU. It would be beneficial for EU if NA was a better region. It'd be beneficial for NA if NA was a better region. Let's be real. Like if they were a better region, NA would be happier.
The fact that NA has to go to fucking wildcard regions to grab players is pitiful.
The fact that NA has to resort to the wild card of NA solo queue to get players is kind of sad. Like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty excited to see, but I mean, there's not. You have anything else you want to say?
Nope. That's pretty much it. I think this was a pretty good episode.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's me. I'm the boss here, so that's pretty much how it works.
Shut your mouth. This is.
But yeah, I'm starving. I need food.
I think we again we're gonna do a live reaction, right, to the best. The
first series.
I'm probably going to. I mean, I'm probably gonna do it for a little bit. I mean. I definitely can get the first game in for sure, but if you don't want to,
yeah, the first game games, in the first game for sure. It depends on. Let me see something. Worlds 2020 pick'em starts blah 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 blah. Schedule. Let's go. Are you fucking serious? Dam 1 versus Dragon X. It starts at 3 a.m.
That's the least fun one. All right.
I also want the time slot. It's 3 a.m. What time do you think that is for us?
3 a.m. Is it Pacific time?
No, it's Chinese time.
It's probably a decent time for us then. Pacific Chinese
Hold
times.
on. Let me translate this.
What does it say next to it? Does it say PST next to it?
No, it says 3 a.m. approximately.
Of what time zone does it say Chinese specifically, or did it translate it for you?
Nope, doesn't say it all. 3 a.m. China time.
Why would they do it at 3 a.m. China time in China?
For North America. 3 a.m. I put Chin in.
China has multiple time zones, does it not?
The worldwide clock. Nope, tells me nothing.
It is probably 3 a.m. NA time, I promise.
Okay, so they are... CST to H. I don't know what it is. They're not... This,
CST is Central time.
The internet's busted. The internet's broken. I said, what is 3 a.m.? I said 3 a.m. China for North America. Literally, give me a fucking conversion. Holy shit.
Let me see.
Okay, so China time. Right now, it's 8 a.m. for them. It's 5 p.m. right now for us. Now, if we're talking about, I don't even know.
It is literally 3 a.m. our time. I don't know why you're so determined. It's our time.
All right, we're really screwed. Are you staying up for that?
That's pretty late, man. And that's the first game is starting then. We have to literally stay up until 6.
I gotta go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be dead. I'll be actually dead.
Alright. You good with that?
Yep, that's pretty much it. TSM is the best team on this planet, obviously. There's no team better than them. Bjergsen is actually overrated as hell. Double's overrated as hell. That's how it is, you know, usually. No argument, no one will ever tell me how freaking Jensen is worse than Bjergsen. After what I just saw.
I mean,
nope.
I think... Yeah, I think...
I don't know what rational argument someone could even make to even point it in Bjergsen's
You could say
favor.
that he's better in NA. You could say that he's played better.
Oh, yeah, that really matters. NA really matters, though.
I mean, it's not like Jensen played well last World, so let's be real.
It's not like he's, you know, actually went far at Worlds. Never underestimate that.
Yeah, I mean, it was not because of him.
I mean, I would say it was. Put Pole Belter on Cloud 9. They're not getting to World Semifinals.
They had to play the weakest teams. I don't want to hear this.
That was a group of death.
It was not actually. They all underperformed.
Pre-expectation, that was a group of death.
Actual performance-wise, it was not. There was that was the weakest group in the entire tournament.
No, Fnatic's group was. He had 100 decent G-Rex. That was terrible.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that.
God, that was actually horrible.
That was the weakest.
When Ryu didn't take that claw for it. My God, Ryu. Thank God he's not playing anymore. That guy was washed up. He was just mentally done. But yes, TSM are gonna win Worlds. Obviously, they should sub in Lena now for Double Lift. I think she would make a better ADC. I think Reginald would make a better mid laner personally.
Reggie live reaction cam. I don't want to see it. I don't even. Reggie literally fell asleep. We went to the LCS. He fell asleep right in front of us and fell during the game. The dude does not enjoy. Okay, I'm pointing out the moment that I said, "Hey, they should replay." I was talking about all these things. Everything that I brought up right next to Reginald when I was trash talking TSM happened that next year.
I told him to stop.
Did it not happen, though?
In front of him. We're literally in front of him. I said,
right
stop.
behind.
You are embarrassing me in front of potential clients that will have in the future.
You don't... No, you didn't say anything. He just kind of sat on the other side. Everything I said about TSM was fixed the next year.
No, yeah. We were legitimately, like... You see where, like, I am right here? So imagine, like, me push back.
So technically...
would be, like, right here.
2018 TSM... 2019 TSM is my fault. I'm taking credit for it.
I told you Mithy wasn't playing that bad. He's like, Mithy's playing so bad because my Diamond Solo Queue games indicate that I'm better than a pro player. It's like, dude, calm down, please.
Well, that was just insulting.
Guys, he insults me every single day. He says I'm ugly. I don't get any girls. Just
I have not said one of those things. I did not say you're ugly. I just said he over here talking about how he's sleeping with massive girls like it's a plural thing. Just say girl. Quit asking me.
I swear, like, we've seen all the people you guys love, like Travis, Captain Flowers. I have pictures on my Instagram, actually, about all that stuff. But, overall, if the LCS is happening next year, we'll go, obviously. We were going to go for my vacation. That was right when it shut down. That is just trolling. My life is literally trolled.
Yep.
Like,
I'm hoping they refund it. I didn't even check to see if they refunded my money for the tickets.
They said they would, honestly. They said they did it like immediately after because they had to cancel it. But yeah, see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe, most of all, enjoy. I'm the Nightwing, and Way of Life Esports is signing out. Mr. Stud Guy, he's gonna start his own channel very, very soon. So yeah. When he ever starts it officially, just make sure you go and sub to that. If you guys catch this as the VOD on the replay, just make sure you like the video. It's all I ask for, because that way more people see it, it gets recommended more, and then we have more subs. That's pretty much how it works. YouTube 101 for anybody who doesn't know. See you guys later. Goodbye. Peace.